those injured are severely injured with really bad burns, and they have been airlifted to other parts of Switzerland, some people as far as Milan, to receive specialist treatment for their burns because, of course, these types of injuries can't be treated in small hospitals in the mountain. They've got to go to these specialist hospitals. One of the hospitals treating people is the Lausanne University Hospital, some 125 kilometres away, and they've said they've taken on 22 people aged between 16 and 26. Of course, a number of the injured incredibly young, as this bar, known there as an institution of this ski village, Crans-Montana, and particularly popular among young people. And the director of that hospital saying it is the young people who are most seriously injured.
Goodness me, completely. It's just so sobering. You know, you imagine all these young people, whoever, people are going to celebrate the new year with their friends, having a great time, welcoming in 2026, and just the absolute worst happens. And I just think now, I imagine the families of all those people who have not only lost their lives, 40-odd people, a staggering number, but the dozens injured, the 100 plus, the life-changing injuries they'll be probably expecting from here on. Just awful. Will, thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. Let's cross live now to Crans-Montana in Switzerland and speak with the Swiss reporter, Alessia Rambaldi. Alessia, Happy New Year. Good afternoon to you. What's the mood down there on the ground in Crans-Montana? And by the way, you know, I'm so sorry that we're talking under these circumstances.
Well, I have to say it's pretty devastating, though. I've talked to a lot of people that don't know where their friends are, that have lost someone. And yeah, I mean, when I arrived, there was still the smell of smoke in the air. It's really devastating.
Has Switzerland ever suffered anything like this before, Alessia? Can you recall anything similar where there's been a public tragedy with just, you know, so many deaths and so many injured?
With so many deaths and injured, no. In 2025, we had the catastrophe in Blatten, but there we didn't have as many deaths as here.
So it potentially could be one of the worst tragedies in Swiss history. What are the government saying in Switzerland today, Alessia? What's the response from the authorities and the government?
They are still evaluating everything. They have told us that they presume that dozens of people have died, that dozens of people have been hurt, but everything else is still being evaluated because there's just so much.
Yeah, and the families you've spoken to, Alessia, the people on the ground there, how are they feeling today? I mean, I guess it goes without a question, but just kind of illustrate to us about how they were. Yeah. What were they saying to you?
Yeah, they were really devastated. There was some people that didn't talk because they were just so sad about it. But yeah, I think most of them are just in shock and maybe also denial. But most of the people I've talked to were pretty upset with what happened.
Alessia, thank you so much for your time and company. Keep up the good work, and we'll catch up a bit later on in the show. That's Alessia Rambaldi there on the ground in Crans-Montana in Switzerland. Again, I just said to Will, it just shows the fragility of life. The Anthony Joshua story from a few days ago, travelling with friends in a car in Nigeria. There 1 minute, and his two best friends, his trainer, the next, they're gone. They're lying on the road dead. And it's just a sobering start to the new year, isn't it? And I think it's a message a reminder even to, you know, really appreciate every day as if it's the last. GBNews.com/yoursay. Let us know your thoughts on that, and we'll bring you more updates from Switzerland as we get them. Right, up next, we'll look back on a year when more than 41,000 small boat migrants crossed the English Channel, and we'll be asking if there's anything the government can do to end the crisis. We've heard so much about smashing the gangs, not much smashing going on apart from our border right now. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Back in a tick.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health, Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
Are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the
because
failure is...
you're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, welcome back to Martin Daubney with me, Ben Leo, on this New Year's Day. Let's crack on with the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to kick off 2026 with a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash in your back pocket. Here's all the details you need to win.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, very good luck to you. Now, I know it's a new year, New Year's resolutions and so on. Let me know what yours are, by the way, gbnews.com/your say. But I wonder if having a new year, another 12 months ahead of us, will bring any different results when it comes to the so-called small boats crisis. Because the Immigration Minister has told GB News he's confident that sweeping changes to policy will in fact allow the UK to make progress in tackling migrants steaming across the Channel in flimsy rubber dinghies. In an exclusive interview, Mike Tapp said the new powers would make it less attractive to come here and easier for authorities to deport illegal arrivals. His comments come as the number of Channel migrants reaching the UK last year hit 41,500, the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. That's despite, just incessant pledges to smash the gangs. As I just said in the last hour or so, the only thing being smashed as of now is Britain's borders. Anyway, our Homeland Security editor, Mark White, has this exclusive report.
When Sir Keir Starmer came to office, he promised to smash the gangs to end these illegal crossings. 18 months on, by the most obvious measure, the numbers arriving in the UK, he's failed on that key pledge. It has been the second highest year on record. Only poor weather through the whole of November and much of December prevented it surpassing the more than 45,000 who arrived back in 2022. Today is typical of the kind of weather that we've experienced in the Channel all too often lately. It's not exactly blowing a gale, but it's windy enough to churn up the waves and make it impassable for these flimsy migrant dinghies. On the other side of the Channel, there is no slowdown in the numbers arriving in the camps here. For the residents in French towns along the Channel coast, it has been a miserable year. GB News has documented increasing levels of migrant violence and criminality. In the UK, it's not knowing who those arriving here are, what their criminal past might be, that has so many increasingly concerned. A year of highly alarming incidents linked to asylum seekers brought thousands onto the streets protesting outside migrant accommodation across the country. Despite the growing levels of anger and no sign of any let-up in illegal migrant crossings, the Immigration Minister told us he's confident the government is making progress.
We inherited open borders. We've seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people, and of course counter-terror powers to take on the smuggling gangs, and I'm confident we'll make progress.
A much publicised returns deal with France has so far seen only a very modest number sent back over the Channel. The government says it hopes to expand the programme. And a long-anticipated plan for the French to push migrant boats back onto the beaches has yet to begin, with indications it'll only ever be used in rare cases. The former Director General of Border Force believes Labour has to find a major third country deterrent, like the previous government's Rwanda scheme.
I think for the more difficult countries, we do need a Rwanda-style deterrent, but it has to be a laser-like focus on removals. That's what we need. In my experience, the only way to tackle asylum intake is to say we will detain you when you get here and we will remove you. That's the only message, I'm afraid, that the migrants and the smugglers are going to understand.
Across the year, UK law enforcement managed a number of key arrests and prosecutions of those linked to Channel people smuggling. But despite those successes, it seems to have hardly made a dent on a criminal trade that continues to push ever greater numbers towards the UK. Mark White, GB News, Dover.
What's interesting there, looking at Mark White's package, especially that last shot, if you're watching on Catch Up or YouTube, just rewind it just a little bit. That last shot of the dinghy, full of men, full of young fighting-age men. I don't see a woman, didn't see a child, and in the camps in Calais as well. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now, the journalist and commentator Candice Holdsworth and the former Tracers contestant Kieran Thompson. Happy New Year to you both. Welcome along. Candice, start with you, ladies first. What are your thoughts looking at that package there from Mark White and generally the pledge from Mike Tapp, the minister, the immigration minister, that, you know, 2026, new year, new me, we'll do it this time, we'll smash the gangs, we'll stop migration?
I'm highly sceptical. I think Labour knows that they have to get on top of this issue, that it is the issue right now. Immigration is the issue, especially the asylum system and illegal immigration. But I don't think they're able to take the proper measures to get on top of it. I think if you look at successful models, like in the US and Australia, you have very, very strong deterrents. So you have strong deterrents when it comes to the traffickers. Australia deployed the Navy, which is what I think we should do here. And in the US, you have have zero chance of coming in if you try to come in illegally. I think Labour could, in fact, even increase the number of people coming in because they said that they're going to open up safe and legal routes. And I just think the asylum system as a whole is a draw, and that's why Greece has suspended it. I think we need very radical measures. I think we're in a time of unprecedented mass migration, and it's clear that the public does not want it. So I think you can take very strong measures. I don't think Labour's capable of doing it, though.
Yeah. And by the way, not only is America stopping illegal migration, illegal migrant entrance into America down to zero, literally zero, they are removing illegal migrants. 2.4 million have gone home, 600,000 forcibly removed by ICE. The rest encouraged to go home because they said if you don't go home, they will come and find you anyway, and you'll never be allowed back. Kieran, what's your thoughts?
They've also put a £3,000 fee in place to return migrants from the US.
That was a Christmas Brucey bonus.
So is it exempt now?
Normally it's $1,000.
Right.
But Kristi Noem, who's the head of basically their version of the Home Office, had a Christmas offer and said, if you self-deport, if you call this number, we'll pay for your flights, we'll give you $3,000, and you can apply to come back legally. Yeah. But that expired today, I think.
Well, apparently they said it was £17,000 to process people, $17,000, so £3,000 seems a fair cost. I think they need to deploy the Navy, like you say, Candice. I think it's completely out of control at the moment.
But to do what, logistically? So you have Navy frigates or whatever in the Channel to do what? Intercept them?
Yeah, I think if you look at other formulas like say, Australia, etc., that's working, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's working. It's a tried and tested formula. There is no plan in place. Nothing's working. I don't understand.
But critics would say we'd be breaking international law. That's you're breaking the laws of the seas. You're going against the ECHR.
Well, it will continue if we don't do something like that drastically. So I just don't see if we can resolve the problem if we carry on doing what we're doing now. It's out of control. I don't see any effective plan that's going to change what's happening at the moment.
Yes, and that's the most effective way to manage the people traffickers as well. I mean, Keir Starmer said, oh, I'm going to smash the gangs. Actually, what you do is you raise the cost of human trafficking. They don't want to deal with the Navy, these guys. They're in it for the money. As soon as it becomes difficult for them, they will back off, which is what they did in Australia.
Yeah, and, Australia, just speak to Tony Abbott. So Australia, of course, had this exact problem. And, by the way, there's a similar problem in Florida, on the south coast of Florida. You've got small boats, dinghies coming from the South Caribbean of migrants. And I'm going to try and go out again with the authorities down in Florida to see what they're doing. But they are basically intercepting these boats before they get near American land. And all the lefty critics will say, yeah, but that breaks laws of the seas and international law and so on and so on. But the Trump administration just don't care. They prioritise America first, which is what I argue we need to do here. You need to put Britain first, declare it a national emergency, a national security risk, because, again, we keep saying, let's remind ourselves, we don't know who they are, where they're from, or what their intentions are. And for the most part, again, look at these pictures on your screen here, Kieran, they're all blokes. Yeah. They're all young men. And the worst part is, when they come here, we put them up in hotels and they are allowed to freely roam the streets of Britain.
Yeah, and some of the stuff, we're getting some reports out that's happened, but I think we're in for a rough year, to be honest with you, in 2026. I think things are going to get a lot worse before they get a lot better, unfortunately.
Do you think they need to get worse before they get better? Not just migration, but generally. Do you think the UK needs to...
It's sad to say, but I think, where do we draw the line? When will we act? When will we start being proactive rather than reactive? So I hope it doesn't, but I think it's inevitable.
It's true. During times of crisis, maybe that's when things seem possible that weren't possible before, where people think, well, actually, I'm going to do the radical solution. Actually, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to break conventional wisdom. Things kind of have to hit rock bottom before you can get to that place, though.
Yeah, interesting. I also just think as well, I mean, Labour say they have deportations are up, was it 40-odd thousand last year, 50,000 deportations? But again, if you look at who they're deporting, it's the likes of the Vietnamese nail bar workers who, you know, OK, maybe they shouldn't be here, fine, they came here illegally, but they're not causing much of a problem. They're doing my wife's nails and they're working, and they're not the ones going around waging jihad and slaughtering Jews at synagogues.
Exactly.
So fine, you've kicked out the low-hanging fruit, but in actual fact, you know, it's not the ones that people really care about. Right, gbnews.com/, you'll say, let us know your thoughts on that. Mandy, you've said, well said, Ben, totally agree with you. Please don't ever leave. I'm not leaving, Mandy. I'm going back to the US next week, but I'm not leaving. Darren, you've said, when I see a dinghy full of men, I see criminals. haven't spotted doctors or engineers. Let's say we can't tar them all with the same brush, but when it goes in reference to sexual offences, let's do that. Afghans and Eritreans are far more likely to commit sexual offences, according to MOJ data, than native Brits. Carol, you've said, hello Carol, good afternoon, Happy New Year. You've said, who cares about international law? China and Russia don't, they survive. Who cares what others think about Britain? They'd probably think we have some sense at last. I think I agree with you, Carol. And by the way, talking about the ECHR and taking asylum seekers, Hungary, Viktor Orban, love him or loathe him, you know, he's a controversial leader, but they are paying a fine of, I think it's €1 million a day, €1 million a day, for refusing to take any asylum seekers. They've paused it until they can get a grip and an understanding of what the hell is going on with this uncontrolled mass migration all across the West. Keep those coming in. gbnews.com/your say. Lots more to come between now and 4 o'clock, including the latest on the tragedy in Switzerland, where around 40 people are feared to have died following the blaze at a bar at a Swiss ski resort. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. Headlines at 3:31. As you've been hearing, the Swiss president, Guy Parmelin, has visited the site of the fire at the Le Constellation bar, where 40 people are feared to have died and 100 others were injured during a New Year's Eve party. Police are expected to give an update in the next hour on the incident in the Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana. 41,500 Channel migrants reach Britain in 2025, making it the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. Household bills are set to rise today while temperatures across the country plummet. Amber cold health alerts for the whole of England will be in place until 12 o'clock on the 6th of January. To the US now, where Zoran Mamdani has been sworn in as New York City's first Muslim mayor with his hand on a Quran. And Enzo Maresca has left his role as Chelsea manager after 18 months in charge. That's according to the Premier League club. Those are your headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office, and Happy New Year. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We'll have frequent snow showers, especially across Scotland, with frost and ice. So low pressure situated to the east, high pressure towards the west. That's dragging down this northerly flow, bringing in cold and Arctic air. So snow showers mostly across Scotland as we head through the rest of this evening. But across Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain, sleet and snow, and that's going to eventually edge into Wales, central parts of England and the southeast. So 1 or 2 centimetres is possible, but the main thing is to start Friday morning, there could be an ice risk. So a cold start to Friday morning with a frost and ice in places. This band of cloud and rain will gradually sink its way southwards, but across Scotland, that's still where we hold on to frequent snow showers, especially across parts of the east, and accumulations will start building. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells mixed in with some wintry showers, and likewise across Wales and the southwest. This band of cloud and rain, though, will gradually start sinking its way southwards, but across eastern areas and across northern areas, that's where we're going to see plenty of winter sunshine as we go through Friday. Still holding on to some brisk winds, especially across Scotland and running down that eastern coast, and there'll be a few showers just running into Northern Ireland as well. Some of these could be wintry, but for all of us on Friday, it's going to be feeling cold out there, especially compared to today, with the brisk winds still across the north. So a cold and frosty night to come as we go through Friday night and into Saturday, still with some wintry hazards, especially across coastal areas, and that theme continues as we head into the weekend. Plenty of sunshine inland, but still with the risk of frost, ice and some snow.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8, westbound traffic is restricted at junction 7 off Slip after a road traffic incident, so allow extra time for recovery work. In Cambridgeshire, a broken down vehicle is causing trouble on the A1 northbound. Between the A428 and the A141, with one of 3 lanes closed leading to slow-moving queues. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, while Cross Country reports major engineering work in the Cambridge area, so check before you travel. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome back to Martin Daubney with me, Ben Leo, for today and tomorrow. Let's get the latest on the fatal fire at a Swiss ski resort. Will Godley is with me now in the studio. Will, police believe 40 people have died following that explosion, around 100, maybe even more injured. What's the latest?
Well, Ben, in the last few minutes we've actually heard from the Italian Foreign Minister, Antonio Tajani, who has given an update on the Italians involved in this. Of course, where this ski authority is, Crans-Montana, very near the Italian border, right at the north of Italy, the southern part of Switzerland, and a number of Italians believed to be in Crans-Montana for New Year's Eve. And now, giving an update in the last few minutes, the Italian Foreign Minister has said 16 Italians have been reported missing after a fire swept through a bar in the Swiss Alps, and he's also said a dozen more Italian nationals are being treated in hospital following this blaze. These are comments he's made in the last half an hour or so to TG24, a news station in Italy, saying, "I hope there are no Italian victims, but we cannot at this stage rule anything out." He described the situation last night as chaotic as well, and those investigations continuing to take place throughout the day. And Tajani, the Italian Foreign Minister, has been in regular contact with the Swiss authorities, who will be giving an update at 4:15 our time this afternoon. And Tajani has now confirmed the death toll stands at 47. So 47 people now, according to the Italian Foreign Minister, dead in this horrific fire at La Constellation Bar at Crans, Montana. And those Italian people who are injured, a dozen or more, he said, having severe burns and being treated for them in Switzerland. And we know that the director of one of the hospitals where a number of these people are being treated in Switzerland has said the most serious cases are amongst people aged 16 to 26, so young people bringing in the new year some 90 minutes after midnight in Switzerland when this horrific fire broke out. And eyewitnesses saying, speaking to the French media, saying that they saw the fire start when sparklers on top of a candle got too near to the ceiling, and that's when the ceiling erupted into flames, which then spread within a dozen or so seconds, these eyewitnesses recounted, to the whole of the basement, and within a couple of minutes that fire spreading through the rest of the bar that can hold about 300 people. It was said there was about 200 or so people in the basement, all scrambling, a mad rush, a mad panic to try and escape these flames that engulfed the bar. As now Swiss authorities there today continue to try and forensically examine exactly what went on and identify some of the people and victims who died in this incident. But we're hearing that is proving to be particularly challenging, as the structure of the bar is proving too tricky for them really to enter and get inside. So rescue efforts and recovery efforts proving challenging at this stage. We'll get an update in about just over half an hour on exactly where the Swiss authorities are at in this investigation, whether they have firmly been able to establish the cause of this fire, how it managed to spread so quickly, who are those who have died in this, what nationalities they're from. But this hour we can say that the Italian Foreign Minister has confirmed the death toll stands at 47.
Goodness me, it just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? And you just have to wonder. I mean, the reports that there was a colleague, a waitress on a colleague's shoulders walking through this bar with, you see it at sort of nightclubs and bars around the world where they're bringing champagne out and they put sparklers on top. You wouldn't think if it's a if it's a wooden chalet type construction, that a few sparks from a sparkler would erupt the roof. So you have to wonder whether there was something on the roof, maybe some. I think the Mail Online were reporting maybe some soundproof foam, perhaps. Maybe they're speculating which caught fire. But it's a mystery, isn't it? But the update is coming when? In about 30 minutes.
At 4:15, and we'll bring that to you live on GB News.
Will, thanks very much. That's Will Godley, our national reporter. I'm joined now by Norman Brennan, who's a former Met police officer and is the director of the Law and Order Foundation. Norman, good afternoon. Happy New Year. There was initial maybe concern this morning, Norman, that this may or could have been some sort of deliberate attack or arson. I think that's probably been ruled out now. We'll find out for certain after 4 p.m. What's your initial reaction to this?
Well, it's a terrible tragedy. Any day of the year would be bad, but New Year's Eve. I remember back in 1986, I was the deputy office manager and investigator on the Clapham train crash. There we lost 35 people that were killed and 484 were injured. Massive inquiry. I then, the following year, was on the King Cross fire investigation, where 31 people died and over 100 were injured. These are massive inquiries, but every police service in the world does practice runs on major incidents. So Switzerland, although they didn't want this to happen, would be prepared. And it's a bit like a puzzle, really, these investigations, Ben. Where you have a perfect picture, it's like a 1,000-piece puzzle has been hit in the air, and it's now down to the police investigation and the fire investigation and any other authority to put together the pieces.
Yeah, it's just, as you said, at any time of the year it's tragic, but if you can imagine the young people in that bar, some as young as 16, heralding the new year in 2026, probably full of such hope and joy and having a great time. And the next minute, and I'll say it again, it just shows the fragility of life, Norman. Norman, whilst you're on the line, on the blower, can I ask you please about, if you don't mind, about the small boat crisis and basically the future of national security in the UK, because we've just heard from our national security editor, Homeland Security editor, Mark White, who did a package on the small boat crossings last year, 41,000. Labour now pledging to basically smash the gangs and get a hold of it, if you believe them. Where are we as a country when it comes to our national security? Are we less safe than we were a couple of years ago, say, before the small boats came flooding in?
Lost and broken. I post regular on homicide, gun and knife crime and issues that concern Britain, certainly in relation to safety. The primary concern, then, for every government in the world is to protect its borders, its streets, and, as importantly, its citizens. I personally have, and I'm a non-voter, I'm in bed with nobody, so I say it straight and how I see it. I have absolutely no faith in this Labour government. And I believe it's a bit like, buyer's remorse. If a government can't protect its borders, its streets and its citizens, that government should be in power. And I personally reached the point, Ben, do you know what? I've been in policing and law and order for 47 years. And I've reached the stage where I almost posted on my Christmas message to my 100,000 followers, I've almost lost hope. When I was a young police officer, I dedicated my life to protecting society, pretty much like what the government should be doing, almost lost it twice, and we controlled the streets. We worked as a great team. And I thought that when I retired, I could look to a police service and society and a government that will look after me, protect and keep me safe in my older age before I pop my clogs. I've never felt so unsafe in London, and I've never seen a country so broken as far as law is concerned. And if you want my vision for the future, I don't think that Britain will ever get back to the normality that many of us knew. It wasn't a wonderful world 30 years ago, but it was much better than it was today. And I think that if we don't get the police with 18,000 short from the population growth, 20,000 more, what we need to actually take the streets back from the criminal fraternity that Theresa May left lawless.
Yeah.
We've got 15 or 20 years, I'm afraid, Ben, before we can take back the streets. That's my personal and professional vision. I'm sorry it's dying.
Happy New Year, eh? I think there's still a lot to shout about for Britain. I've been in America for 4 months, as I keep banging on. I'm going back next week, and I was so happy to come home over Christmas because this is my country. We've got, as I said, a lot to shout about. Nothing more beautiful or glorious than England in the summertime, for example.
I've
Yes,
been
we
to
need to
America
find
20 times. I've been to America 20 times. I took the police over there for the 9/11 memorials for several years. I never felt so safe in any country in the world. I've never met so many people where they actually looked after each other. The biggest thing we're missing, Ben, and you're right, moral fibre, community spirit and respect. If we can get that back, that made us great after World War II, we've got some hope.
Yeah, we just need to get our mojo back, and that's easily done. I think you'd be surprised, many people will be surprised how quickly that can happen. Again, I point to the United States. In just 12 months, they've got their mojo back, and I think it can be done. I don't share your absolute Armageddon sentiment just yet, Norman, but I appreciate your expertise and where that comes from. So thank you for your company today. Happy New Year, Norman Brennan, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you, mate. Right, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of heavy and thundery rain across parts of southern Europe as we go through into the weekend. There's Storm Francis, which is heading towards Spain and Portugal, bringing heavy and thundery rain here. Also some heavy rain across parts of Italy, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, and the risk of some significant hill snow building up in parts as well. Into the weekend, well, there will be some dry weather around, but also further rain at times too. I'll see you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Look, this is winter. It's flu. Flu comes in winter. Sure as eggs is eggs. There's nothing particularly special about the virus. It has mutated, but that change has made it able to spread through the community by defeating our existing immunity. But the virus itself remains the same in terms of its clinical impact. So while it's a problem at a community and population level, lots of cases, for people who catch this, it's no worse than normal seasonal flu. It's not like we've got a supercharged flu that makes people much iller. We've got a virus that's spreading better and it's come earlier. So we're seeing it rising up the sort of infectious disease rates faster for this time of year. And there are a number of reasons for that, partly because it is a different virus, it's mutated. We haven't seen this particular strain spread for a couple of years. So population immunity levels are quite low. That's why it's spreading more.
What you said there, very calm, very rational, quite reassuring, to be honest with you, seems very logical, understandable. Earlier today, the BBC decided to do a report that looked a lot like this. Let's play the clip.
The throwback, isn't it? We were used to wearing these a few years ago. Now this is the precaution being taken. Also, people are being told to make sure their hands are clean and that they're not bringing germs into the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't got time to play it all, but she goes on to, like, you know, use the hand sanitizer. Again, I'm just wondering if it's a little bit fear-mongery.
Well, look, we must take flu seriously because it's a fact that if we tot up the excess mortality in the wintertime, just in the UK, and we attribute a lot of this excess mortality to flu, in an average year, maybe 5,000-6,000 people will lose their lives to flu. And in a bad year, it might be as high as 20,000. So we don't take this lightly. We're not complacent about flu.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to Martin Daubney with me, Ben Leo. Now, the Green Party leader, Zach Polansky, do you remember him? He wants to legalise heroin, crack cocaine, open borders, migrant hotels for all. Anyway, he has said that he would commit to a left-wing plot between the Greens and Labour if it meant keeping reform out of power. However, there is a caveat. He said he'd only team up with the likes of Andy Burnham and definitely not with Sir Keir Starmer, our dear Prime Minister. Well, let's get the thoughts now of the former Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Shara Ali. Shara, Happy New Year. Welcome along. What do you make of this? Anything to keep Nigel Farage out of number 10, it seems, but not with Keir Starmer?
Well, this is cynical. Polansky's done incredibly well to raise the profile of the Green Party and our membership at an all-time high. He's to be commended for that. But with that political capital comes responsibility. And this idea of, we've tried it in 2017, so-called progressive alliances. The Greens allied, stood down in certain places in a partnership with the Lib Dems and Plaid. That didn't work well for us. Our vote share went down to 500,000 from over 1 million just 2 years prior. In 2019, we tried it again with this idea to coalesce against Brexit voters. The public don't like this, and more importantly, Green members, Green voters and Green candidates don't like it. If we are to stand down, potentially in an election where we're going to do very well in the polls and also get more MPs, all that's going to happen is we're going to depress our overall vote share.
But is the Green Party not the same entity it was, say, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago? You've got thousands more members. You're polling like you would have never believed. You know, you're taking massive scalps out of Labour in the polls. So things are different now, no?
They are, yes, but that's actually more reason. We talk about, Polansky in particular talks about bold politics. It's not bold to stand down because you're fearful of what the electorate might say. Now, Reform are, for good reason, doing very well, but we need to meet them in debate. We need to face down the arguments. Is there a genuine problem around migration in particular? Do we have the right answers to actually resolve that issue? No, we don't, because people from both the left and the right, so-called, are voting Reform. Why is that? Because they seem to be the only ones taking seriously the actual threat that people feel on the streets, some of which is substantive and justified, around assaults, violent assaults against women and girls. That's something we need to deal with. And so we're not actually a left party, nor Labour is moving towards that position with Mahmood talking about controlled migration. But that's where we need to be at. We can't have scores, hundreds and thousands, unprecedented levels of fighting-age men, undocumented male migrants who are much more likely, 14 times more likely, statistically, to be responsible for violent and criminal assault against women and girls. That's something which is a left position. It's not a right position. It's a common sense, human rights position.
Indeed. I was about to say, that's a common sense position. However, we're very squeezed for time. However, many people don't agree with it. They agree with Zach Polansky. As I said, they're polling like never before. So some people aren't of that persuasion. Sorry, you got about 20 seconds.
I mean, look, even if your overriding objective was to stop Farage from the polls, if you really believed in that and you believed in your anti-fascist rhetoric, which I think is the wrong way of saying it anyway, he's not a fascist, right? You would do anything in your power, which would involve, you know, working with whoever was in power, not just, you know...
I don't believe Zach. I don't believe Zach Polansky. If it came to, say, a week before general election and Reform were polling at something stupid like 45, 50%, of course he's going to do a deal with Labour and Keir Starmer to keep them out. They would all team together. I wouldn't put it past the Tories either to do some sort of deal to keep Farage out. Thank you very much, Shara Ali. Appreciate it. Former Deputy Leader of the Green Party. More on Martin Daubney in just a sec, including the latest on the Swiss fire, where 47 people have now died. Back in just a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office, and Happy New Year. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We'll have frequent snow showers, especially across Scotland, with frost and ice. So low pressure is situated to the east, high pressure towards the west. That's dragging down this northerly flow, bringing in cold and Arctic air. So snow showers mostly across Scotland as we head through the rest of this evening. But across Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain, sleet sleet and snow, and that's going to eventually edge into Wales, central parts of England and the southeast. So 1 or 2 centimetres is possible, but the main thing is to start Friday morning, there could be an ice risk. So a cold start to Friday morning with a frost and ice in places. This band of cloud and rain will gradually sink its way southwards, but across Scotland, that's still where we hold on to frequent snow showers, especially across parts of the east, and accumulations will start building. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells mixed in with some wintry showers, and likewise across Wales and the southwest. This band of cloud and rain, though, will gradually start sinking its way southwards, but across eastern areas and across northern areas, that's where we're going to see plenty of winter's sunshine as we go through Friday. Still holding on to some brisk winds, especially across Scotland and running down that eastern coast. And there'll be a few showers just running into Northern Ireland as well. Some of these could be wintry. But for all of us on Friday, it's going to be feeling cold out there, especially compared to today, with the brisk winds still across the north. So a cold and frosty night to come as we go through Friday night and into Saturday, still with some wintry hazards, especially across coastal areas. And that theme continues as we head into the weekend. Plenty of sunshine inland, but still with the risk of frost, ice and some snow.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across social media. We are truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8, westbound is restricted at junction 7 off Slip because of a road traffic incident, so allow extra time. In Staffordshire, the M6 northbound between junction 10A and junction 11 is slow with around 10 minutes of congestion, improving after 3:45 this afternoon. In Surrey, the A30 eastbound between the A308 and the A315 is about 10 minutes late, easing after 3:45 this afternoon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, and Cross Country has major engineering work in the Cambridge area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and Happy New Year's to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Ben Leo, on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK with all the very latest news, debate and analysis until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on the show today. That breaking news today, at least 47 people have now been confirmed to have died and 100 injured after an explosion at a ski resort in Switzerland. We await news on whether any Brits are affected, and we'll cross live to the scene for regular updates from our reporter, Will Godley.
And in a few minutes' time, we'll be hearing from Swiss authorities as they continue their investigations, answering questions about how this fire happened, why it spread so quickly, and how they've managed to be getting on with identifying some of those individuals who have died.
Elsewhere, find out why Green Party leader Zach Polansky would be prepared to form a coalition with Labour to stop Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister. But the big caveat is he says he would not work with Sir Keir Starmer. Has the Prime Minister got any fans at all? Elsewhere,
seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people.
well, the gangs in 2025, they weren't smashed, were they? Because after more than 41,000 small boat arrivals last year, the Immigration Minister tells us why Labour can now get a grip of the crisis. And we'll get reaction to Zohan Mamdani being sworn in as New York City's first Muslim mayor with, and again for the first time, his hand on the Quran instead of a Bible. That's all coming between now and 6 o'clock. Send your views to gbnews.com/your say. I'll try my best to read them out. I've got one here from Joanna. Happy New Year, Joanna. You said, Ben, how's the hangover after the New Year's show last night? Joanna, I haven't got one. Fresh as a daisy, I swear. Let's get your news headlines with Sophia Wenzer.
Ben, thank you. It's just gone 4 o'clock. These are your headlines. Swiss police are expected to give an update in the next few minutes as dozens of people are feared dead after a fire at a crowded bar in a Swiss ski resort. The blast happened at Le Constellation Bar in the resort of Crans, Montana, with around 100 people injured, most of them seriously. Authorities say victims include several nationalities, with France's foreign ministry confirming French nationals are among those injured. Meanwhile, 16 Italians have been reported missing and around a dozen more Italian nationals are being treated in hospital. The intensive care unit at Valais Hospital is at full capacity, with patients now being transferred elsewhere. Police say the incident is not being treated as terrorism, while eyewitnesses have told France's BFM TV that they saw the fire start in the basement section of the club after a bottle containing birthday candles was held up too close to the wooden ceiling. Now, small boat crossings increased last year despite Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to smash the people smuggling gangs. 41,500 Channel migrants reached Britain in 2025, making it the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said smash the gangs is a complete disaster. The one-in, one-out deal is a farce and the numbers coming over are huge. While Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp said only the Conservatives are prepared to do what control requires and will leave the ECHR. But the Immigration Minister, Mike Tapp, told GB News he's confident in Labour's new measures.
Inherited open borders. We've seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people, and of course counter-terror powers to take on the smuggling gangs, and I'm confident we'll make progress.
Elsewhere, household bills are set to rise today while temperatures across the country plummet. The energy price cap increase comes just as a swathe of cold health alerts have been issued for large areas of the UK. Ofgem says the average household will now pay £1,758 a year for gas and electricity, which is just £3 more than before. In other news, Anthony Joshua has been discharged from hospital in Nigeria days after a fatal car crash that killed 2 of his close friends. The British heavyweight boxer was deemed fit to recover at home, according to the Ogun and Lagos states. The former world champion has been described as heavy-hearted over the loss of his friends Sina Gami and Latif Ayodele. To the US now, where Zoran Mamdani has been sworn in as New York City's first Muslim mayor with his hand on a Quran. The self-proclaimed democratic socialist chose a disused Gilded Age subway station at Old City Hall as a nod to the workers who keep modern New York running. The 34-year-old campaigned to create universal childcare, make public buses free, and to freeze rents on 1 million apartments. Enzo Maresca has left his role as Chelsea manager after 18 months in charge, according to the Premier League club. The Italian manager's departure has been expected following a breakdown in relations with key figures at Stamford Bridge. And thousands of people have lined the streets of London to watch the colourful annual New Year's Day parade. More than 8,000 performers took part in the display along the route from Piccadilly to Whitehall in the West End, which included marching bands, acrobats and floats. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
Thank you, Sophia. We start with the news that at least 47 people are now confirmed to have died following a bar explosion in Switzerland, with more than 100 people injured. Many of those are thought to be seriously hurt. The fire began at around midnight UK time in a bar in Crans, Montana, in the Valais region of Switzerland, which is popular with tourists. Swiss authorities have said some of the victims are from other countries. It's not known yet if any Brits are involved among the casualties. The local intensive care unit is full and victims have been transferred to nearby hospitals. And during a press conference, police said they believed a fire was responsible for the explosion rather than an attack. A spokesperson for the UK Foreign Office has said today, "Our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in the terrible tragedy in Crans, Montana, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response." Earlier this morning, the head of Valais Canton Police in Switzerland addressed the press. Here's what they had to say.
We've counted around 100 injured people, most of them seriously, and unfortunately several dozen individuals are presumed dead. I can't hide it from you. We're shaken by what happened last night in Caen. On behalf of the command of the Valais Cantonal Police, I extend my deepest sympathy to the victims and the families affected by this tragedy. I assure them of our support during these particularly dramatic and painful moments.
And elsewhere, a resident of the ski resort said they were very worried for a person she knows who may have been in the blast, and she's been speaking to reporters.
I learned this when I received messages from friends and family this morning, asking me if everyone in the family was doing well. At that moment, I watched the news. On the phone, I became aware of the tragedy that had taken place during the night. I know someone who may have been among the victims, who I cannot reach, and I am very worried. I'm going to try and reach out to other people who know this lady and see if she's still alive.
Joining us now is GB News national reporter Will Godley. Will, good afternoon, Happy New Year. What's the latest, please, on this tragedy?
Well, as that woman was saying there, lots of people in Crans, Montana very, very worried about the fate of the people they've not heard from some hours now after this fire started at 1:30 in the morning. And we've seen here at GB News a number of Instagram stories from people in the area putting up photos of their loved ones, asking for people if they have any information on on what's happened to them, to get in touch with them, putting their phone numbers on there. Loved ones simply having no information on what has happened to their loved ones, whether they are in hospital or whether they have died in this fire when they have been there last night. We do now know, speaking in the last few minutes, the Italian foreign minister has said the death toll now stands at 47. That's what he's confirmed to the Sky TG24 television station in the last half an hour or so, as he said that the number of Italians reported missing stands at 16 and that there are 15 Italians being treated in hospital with severe burns. And as we know, there are more than 100 people being treated in hospital, most of them also with severe burns. We can bring you some information about the owners of this bar. The bar there called Le Constellation. It's owned by a French couple, a 49-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman. Well, one of the owners suffered a burn to her arm in this fire. She was there last night as this fire took place, and she, a source close to them, was speaking to BFM TV, a French television station, saying the owners are in complete shock. They never thought anything like this would happen, and of course their worst possible nightmare that this did happen. Another eyewitness spoke to BFM TV as well in the last few moments, saying that the windows were jammed as they tried to get out. And as the fire started and was spreading in the basement of this bar, a huge cloud of black smoke was filling the basement. And these two eyewitnesses, Axel and Nathan, said they couldn't breathe. He said, "I thought I was going to die," but he kicked the glass of the window and they climbed out of the window, passing the jagged glass as it was kicked open, managing to escape that way. But these two young men saying they've got friends they've still not heard of today, and that is the sense that we're getting on the scene there. There's a lot of information that's yet to come out of who is injured and who has sadly died in this fire. Those people there, and likewise many other people around the world, probably will be expecting an update in the next few minutes, as in about 4 minutes' time a press conference will be taking place from the Swiss authorities. They last gave one about 9:30 this morning our time. They'll be giving an update at 4:15, and the Swiss president will be attending that press conference as well. He's been visiting the scene today, and speaking to reporters there, he said a moment of joy turned into a tragedy that has touched the whole of Switzerland and abroad. He's thanked the Italians and the French for their help in assisting with the rescue efforts and assisting with treating those who have been injured, as many people await information that we'll expect to get an update on in just a few minutes' time, Ben.
Will, thanks very much. Appreciate that comprehensive update there. Yeah, I said in the last hour, it's just the worst part. I mean, it's a tragedy at any time, but it's the worst possible way to start a new year. Just, you imagine the victims' families, the loved ones, you know, what a terrible way to start 2026. And you probably have to assume the death toll potentially will get even worse. There's a live press conference, as Will said, in the next couple of minutes. It may be conducted in French, in which case my French isn't that great, so I can't translate. So it may be that we just listen to that press conference briefly before coming back, but the update is coming imminently. Right, I'm joined now by Anthony Glees, who's a national security and counter-terrorism expert. Anthony, Happy New Year to you. Good afternoon. There was some sort of rhetoric or suggestion maybe early this morning, some hours ago, that this could have been potentially deliberate or an attack, but I think how sure are we now that it's been ruled out?
Well, we're not sure. I mean, the position is still very confused. And, of course, people like me who take a close interest in national security issues must be forgiven for raising the question as to whether this could not have been seen, averted, above all, whether there might be a terrorist link here. And the reason that people like me would think there could be would be, first of all, the date, the beginning of the new year, 2026. Second, the fact that we are living in an era of global intifada where an isolated terrorist attack anywhere links to the concept of a global Islamist attack on the West. Third, it's not just an iconic date, but Crans-Montana is an iconic ski resort. Many celebrities had houses there. The late Roger Moore, for example, a famous British actor, lived there for many years. It's a very upmarket, classy ski resort, and it's going to host world skiing championships and other things. So, yes, I am sure that it is likely to have been a deliberate attack, a deliberate fire, because what...
Sorry, Anthony, you're saying it... I mean, there was a press conference this morning, actually, sorry to correct you, that saying that they've ruled out any deliberate actions. Are you saying you think it is?
Well, I'm saying we can't rule out a terrorist attack. People like me cannot rule out a terrorist attack because the police can't rule out a terrorist attack. It will take days to be sure. But that it was deliberate, that seems likely, because what we've been told is that somebody threw some kind of explosive device, whether it was a firecracker or worse, into the party, and that set off a fire. So yes, the position is confused, and, you know, let us hope the fears of terrorism are not proved to be correct. People like me must will always be prepared to stand corrected. but it is right to think of it. And, people need to be very aware of the fact that where they are in an iconic place, an iconic date, anywhere, there are lots of people together. They could find themselves in what Islamists, terrorists would regard as a trophy event. And Islamists in particular go for jollity, they go for dancing, they go for people drinking too much. These are things they really disapprove of. And you need only one crackpot or one fanatic to think, oh, this is my chance to strike back at the West for a tragedy of massive proportions to break out. So, yes, let's hope I'm entirely wrong and this has nothing to do with terrorism. But it's too soon for the police to say definitively there was no terrorism, and it's still too soon to say whether there was a fire and then an explosion, or, as we've been told, something exploded and then there was a fire. We will find out. The people who do this stuff forensically are very, very good. They will find out. But we live in an era of global intifada, and we cannot shut our minds. Our own cops have in the past been too quick to say no terrorism. The German cops, too quick to say no terrorism. And then, after many months, it filters out. And the reason that it's important to get at the cause very quickly and rule out terrorism if possible is because people need to be alert. Alert during this holiday season, alert where there are lots of people gathered, having fun. They can be targets because there are some murderous killers out there.
Yeah, Anthony, so, I hope you're, as you said, I hope you're wrong. The Swiss authorities, as I said this morning, have said it wasn't an attack, it was considered a fire. I guess we'll get a more concrete update imminently because I think the press conference on the ground in Switzerland is about to take place. I understand it's going to be held in French, and unfortunately my French GCSE wasn't that anything to shout about. But Anthony, just looking forward, actually, in terms of national security from a wider perspective, how safe, and I said this to Norman Brennan in the last hour, how safe are things looking in the United Kingdom going forward? Because we've had lots of talk today, lots of reports about the small boats crisis and how Labour are pledging to finally get a grip of it. Are we safer now than we were a few years ago in the UK?
No, I don't believe we are, I'm afraid. We have an excellent security service, but we're seeing all down the line real security threats. Afghans, for example, seem a particular problem at the moment, and people coming to this country, we don't know who they are, we cannot get rid of them. That has got to stop. One way or another, it has got to stop. People on the Channel boats crossing, they are France's problem, but France is exporting them to us. And good friends of France, like myself, believe the French need to get a grip on this. Our boats, our lifeboats should be taking these people back to France, should not be ferrying these people into the United Kingdom. So the security situation is worse, it's not better.
All right, we're just seeing some live pictures on your screens now, viewers and listeners, of the press conference taking place in Switzerland at the moment. Anthony, thanks for your company. We'll catch up soon. That's Anthony Glees, who's a national security and counter-terror expert. Will Godley is still with me now. Will, maybe we'll find out, but I think, according to the press conference this morning, it was totally ruled out that it was a deliberate attack this far. Yeah,
the prosecutor this morning saying they don't believe it was an attack. They think it was an accident, that this fire took place there non-deliberately, and eyewitnesses speaking since to the media saying that this fire started when a sparkler attached to a champagne bottle got too close to the ceiling, and that is when, as we're hearing now, bits of this press conference take place in French, and we'll bring you what they are saying in the next few minutes. But that champagne bottle with the sparkler on it getting too close to the ceiling, sparking this fire. Total accident, prosecutors there said earlier in Switzerland. They've now been trying to establish throughout the day exactly why the fire spread so quickly. Of course, these sparkling candles, you see them often in restaurants when you go out for a meal. People will have them ordered to the table, very common in nightclubs as well. It's unclear how that managed to spark a huge, massive fire throughout this entire bottom floor of this bar. Eyewitnesses saying it spread in just a dozen or so seconds, and in a matter of minutes throughout both floors of this bar that can sit 300 or so people. And I can tell you that the Swiss president, who has been speaking at this press conference, Guy Parmelin, has said the fire is one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known. That has been his response to this fire, where the Italian foreign minister a little bit earlier on confirmed the death toll to be at 47. So lots of reaction we're getting from this. Now, of course, the Swiss president went to the scene earlier to see the burnt remains of this bar, where, of course, at 1:30 this morning, the first signs of smoke billowing from the bar were seen as bystanders called first responders, who arrived at the scene very, very quickly in just a matter of minutes, and then moments after that declared a major incident. Some 10 helicopters, 40 ambulances and 150 first responders there. And we've been hearing from people throughout the day who said security guards, people nearby tried to rush in to help people out, but the flames just too vicious for them even to get down there, as people trying to escape from the basement up this one staircase just were talking about how difficult it was, this mad rush and big panic that took place in this basement of this bar, which many people have said is an institution in Crans-Montana, the Constellation Bar, an incredibly popular place, especially with young people. And the director of one of the hospitals where these number of the injured have been treated, saying most of the injured at this hospital are of the ages between 16 and 26, and they're the most serious cases there. So lots of young people being treated, and most of them suffering severe burns, which the director of this hospital said the recovery will be a long and intensive process lasting several weeks and perhaps even months. And the Swiss president speaking there.
This is him now on screen, the Swiss president, as far as I can tell. His name is Guy Parmelin. Is that the chap, Guy Parmelin? He's apparently postponing his New Year's Eve, or his New Year's address off the back of this fatal fire, which again he has just announced is one of the worst tragedies in the history of the country of Switzerland.
And he visited the scene earlier on today, and when he went there he spoke to reporters as well, describing the fire as, of course, the people gathering at the bar for New Year's as a moment of joy, which then turned into a tragedy. And he said it's touched the whole of Switzerland and also abroad. And he was thanking the French authorities and also the Italian authorities as well for their help. Where Crans-Montana is, it's a village in the Swiss Alps, but very, very near to the Italian border and also the French border. And so a number of French and Italian tourists would have been there to welcome in the new year. And so both of those countries also helping the Swiss with this tragic fire and the recovery efforts since.
You just have to wonder, I mean, if this, looking at there's plenty of video doing the rounds today of the fire, the blaze. You just have to wonder how, if reports are correct that it erupted very quickly within a matter of seconds, what was on the ceiling. If it was just wood from a wood chalet, how could a sparkler do that? There was some suggestion, some reports that perhaps it was soundproof foam on the ceiling because it was a bar, they were playing live music, and I assume they had sort of pre-recorded DJ music as well. So could it be maybe something similar to Grenfell, where you have highly flammable material in the bar which has just totally erupted before anyone could do anything about it? This is the Swiss President the Swiss President Guy Parmelin, who's speaking now, who, again, just to reiterate, has said the fire is one of the worst tragedies in the history of the country. And, Will, any idea yet on whether any Brits were involved?
Well, we've not heard yet, and the Foreign Office have set up a hotline for any Brits wanting assistance on this, and they said earlier today that they weren't approached for assistance on this, but they will be in touch with the Swiss authorities to provide responses to this as and when it's needed. And earlier on today, a Foreign Office spokesperson said, "Our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in the terrible tragedy in Crans-Montana, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response. We will continue to monitor the situation, and our consular staff stand ready to support any British nationals who may be affected." But no word yet on if any Brits are there. We do know that a number of Italians were injured in the blaze. The Italian Foreign Minister speaking earlier this afternoon, saying 16 Italians have been reported missing after this fire, and about 15 more are in hospital. We also know that 2 French nationals have died in this attack, and in this fire, not an attack. And earlier on today, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, put out a statement saying, "Deep emotion following the fire in Crans-Montana. My thoughts go to the bereaved families and the injured, to Switzerland, to its people and to its authorities. I convey the full solidarity of France and our fraternal support." And they've been helping the Swiss authorities with their efforts today. But the Swiss authorities have given very little detail throughout the day. We've been hearing far more details from eyewitnesses who have been speaking, and also from the Italian authorities. But now, as this press conference is underway, we're expecting to hear more details, as the Swiss authorities today will have been trying to establish exactly what caused this fire. So far, we've been hearing from eyewitnesses what they saw there in the basement where this fire is thought to have started. But those inquiries underway to establish exactly how it started. No doubt the Swiss authorities will have been speaking to these eyewitnesses as well, and they'll also be looking to establish exactly how this fire spread so quickly. As eyewitnesses said, it was just a dozen or so seconds as the fire ripped through the basement. And I can bring you some more things that Guy Parmelin, the Swiss president who was just speaking there at the press conference, he's confirmed that many of the victims were youths. Of course, we know that a number of those injured were 16 to 26 as well, suffering with severe burns, but now confirming a number of the victims were youths as well, the Swiss president there, who has also said that Swiss flags in Bern will fly at half-mast for 5 days as the country enters a period of mourning for what the Swiss president says is one of the worst tragedies the country has ever seen. We're hearing again what they said earlier this morning at this press conference, that tens of people dead, not yet putting a figure on that. That's from the president of cantonal government, Matthias Reynard. They're saying tens of people died in this tragic fire that ripped through this bar in the early hours of this morning. At 1:30, of course, some 90 minutes after those there at the bar will have rung in New Year's, and in just a few minutes ripped through the entire bar.
Apparently, the Swiss president there was saying that, as you said, Will, many of the lives lost were young people. They were youths. And he says the fire took lives of dozens of people. 47, the latest number, is that right?
That's from the Italian foreign minister.
And he says, the president, "We wish those injured a quick recovery." I mean, you have to think as well, I mean, with so many injured, seriously injured still in hospital, and what was it, 100 plus at the moment, what potentially that death toll could go up. I mean, the president already saying it is one of the worst tragedies in the country's history. And for me, I don't know at the moment. I don't know what caused the fire. Was it reports of a flammable material on the ceiling to soundproof the building? Was it maybe Christmas decorations that were still up? We don't know yet. We'll hopefully find out soon. But for me, it has chilling echoes of Grenfell from some years ago where more than 70 people, of course, died in that blaze in London. Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy. And I said to you at the top of the show, Will, this is a tragedy of horrific proportions at any time of the year. But when you have so many young people, as you said, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, up to sort of 25, young kids still, celebrating the new year, welcoming in a new calendar year with such hope in their hearts, with such joy, out with their friends, having a great time listening to music, and then at the click of a finger, they're gone. It just shows the fragility of life, and it's very, very sobering. The President now saying the light in the dark is those who came to help, the security services and everybody else who rushed to the scene. So the Swiss President, Guy Parmelin, he says identification of the dead and injured will take some time. And you were talking about that earlier, Will.
Yeah, a lot of what we've seen amongst people in Crans-Montana, in Switzerland there, really trying to work out the fate of what's happened to people they know, putting posts on social media, asking if anybody's seen or heard from certain people, loved ones, family members, asking people to reach out, get in touch, put numbers out on their social media if people have seen or heard from these people, many of whom haven't been heard from, known to have been at Le Constellation Bar, but now haven't been heard from. And so wanting to know what's happened to them, whether they are injured or have sadly lost their lives. And now the president of the cantonal government, Matthias Reynard, who was speaking a little bit earlier on, saying the identification of those who has died will take some time, and that is because of the severe nature of the burns that the victims sustained, and really identifying people who died in this horrific fire very tricky for forensic analysis, who will be there on the scene at the moment. But also we're hearing from them earlier on saying it's really challenging for them entering the bar, entering the basement floor because of the fire causing all these structural problems. So not only the challenges of identification taking some time, but also the fact that it's taking some time to even get into the bar and recover those bodies as well. We can bring you some more information from what people have said there at this press conference happening now in French, saying that serious burns amongst those injured who have been transferred to several hospitals. So those hospitals in Switzerland and also in Milan, a number of people transferred to there, where they have these specialised burns units to treat people who have burns injuries. The local hospital nearby to this Swiss Alps village, not really equipped to deal with the injuries that these hundreds or more than 100 people are suffering, many of them very severe burns, and so lifted by helicopter and transported by ambulance throughout Switzerland, where they can receive this specialised care. One director of one of these hospitals giving this care said earlier on just how long the treatment will take. It will take a number of weeks and sometimes even months for people to recover from these severe burns. And at this stage, she was saying earlier, they're not able to assess what risk these patients are in, because they've so far been trying to firstly initially treat these injuries, but also try to identify the victims and also manage to put them in touch with family members, which is proving to be quite tricky and taking some time of the hospital as they continue to process the injured throughout Switzerland. And of course, the people in Switzerland at the moment have all been told today, and no doubt for the coming few days, to avoid taking any risks, because at the moment this is an incredibly popular time for people to travel to Switzerland to go skiing, and of course it's prone to many accidents. Well, authorities telling people, skiers, to avoid taking any risks, to take away any additional pressure that might be placed on hospitals, who are all focusing as we start 2026 on treating these people who have these burns, horrific burns, after this terrible fire yesterday. And Ben, there's been some more comments from this press conference as well. saying the drama is without precedence, and I've met some families in the last few hours and promised them our support. So that's come there from the Swiss authorities, trying to issue some reassurance to those people who we've seen on social media very distressed at the moment, not quite sure the fate of their loved ones, whether they have been moved to hospital and are injured, or whether they have succumbed to this horrific fire that ripped through this bar last night. And confirming now at the press conference, it was 1:30 in the morning when smoke was first seen by those outside the bar, smoke arising from the bar, and that's when we know that the emergency services were first called, and they responded very, very quickly. It was a huge, massive response from emergency services, 10 helicopters, 40 ambulances and 150 first responders, and that was when they initially declared it a major incident. And now we know that it was just 2 minutes after the first smoke was seen when the first responders arrived on the scene. So an incredibly quick response, especially considering this is a mountain village in the middle of winter. Snow will be everywhere. I think that's an incredibly speedy response time, and no doubt will have saved many lives as well.
Yeah, a huge operation. 10 choppers, of course, highlighting I guess the location of the bar, the town. It's in the mountainside. It's a ski resort. Apparently, according to a police spokesman in Wisconsin, they said it was the bar was filled with more than 100 people. A chap called Tim Steffens, who's a 19-year-old ski instructor who witnessed the blaze, he has spoken out and said he heard a loud bang before everything inside was engulfed in flames. He said everyone was pushing and shoving their way out of the stairwell. It was awful. They were all burned. Their clothes were burned away. It really wasn't a pretty sight. The screams, not pretty, not pretty. He says several people lost their lives, others were injured. And another survivor of the blaze told the French news channel BFM, during the evening, a waiter climbed onto another waiter's shoulders. He was holding a birthday candle, which was very close to the ceiling, and the ceiling caught fire in just a couple of minutes. One more, and a separate woman, a separate attendee of the bar, said the staircase leading out of the nightclub was extremely narrow. There was a huge surge in the crowd, and we managed to escape just in time. Another witness called Emma said the fire seemed to start after people celebrated with champagne bottles that contained candles or sparklers. I said some of the bottles were near the ceiling and it caught fire. The whole ceiling was in flames and the fire spread really fast. It happened in just seconds. We ran outside screaming and crying, Will. And the Swiss president already saying in this press conference now, which you can see live on your screens, viewers, it's being conducted in French, saying that it was mostly young people, 16-year-olds onwards, just enjoying their new year at a ski resort, having a good time, listening to music, maybe having a few drinks, and something so joyous and so optimistic, welcoming in a new year, turns to tragedy so quickly, Will.
Yeah, it's really, really harrowing hearing these eyewitness reports, and those will be the people, you know, who were trying desperately to escape this smoke, this black billowing smoke that engulfed the basement in just a few minutes as people desperate to leave this basement as flames were spreading throughout the wood-cladded ceiling. And in just a matter of minutes, eyewitnesses said the flames engulfed the first floor as well. And one eyewitness said a little bit earlier on, speaking to Swiss media, it was carnage. Kids were leaving the place covered in blood. Some acquaintances told me that young people left the club without clothes. It was a real massacre. That's a Swiss MP speaking, Michaela Rie, who said everything is grim. There were friends who aren't responding to messages. She was speaking earlier saying, of course, it was a late night, that she didn't know if they were just sleeping, but it's that unknown, isn't it? It's not knowing what's happened and trying to do their best to locate their friends. As this inquiry now, we're hearing from this press conference, people there, the Swiss authorities speaking there, saying that they have now opened a legal inquiry into the cause of this fire. Eyewitnesses saying it was a sparkler attached to the top of a champagne bottle that got too close to the ceiling, and that's what sparked this fire, which eyewitnesses, as I've been saying, said spread through the basement incredibly quickly. Well, Swiss authorities continuing their investigation into exactly how this happened and why it spread so quickly. That's now a legal inquiry. And that eyewitness account, I think, really has been something that many broadcasters, not just here in the UK, but throughout Europe, have been talking about today, because it's incredibly vivid and very disturbing in terms of exactly what they saw. And in this press conference so far, not been confirmed to have happened by the Swiss authorities, but and they are now continuing this legal inquiry to see what happened. But I'll just read out now from Emma and Albane, who were two French ladies. They escaped. They say they escaped from the bar last night, and they said it was birthday candles placed on top of champagne bottles, the kind that sparkle, that said was brought too close to the ceiling, which caught fire. And they said in a few dozen seconds, the whole ceiling was on fire. Everything was made of wood. One of the women said. Another one said panic quickly set in when people started seeing these flames. People were screaming and running in the basement. The exit door, they said, was quite small compared to the number of people there in the bar, and someone broke a window so that people could get out, and people not only fleeing up the stairs but fleeing out of a window as well, with those broken glass shards, as people desperate to leave. Maybe that is what caused people to be covered in blood, as well as the fire, of course, and these burns as they were setting in, as another eyewitness said. That lady there saying in the panic, she was thrown down the stairs by the surging crowd, desperate to leave, and she injured her knee, but perhaps pleased to have that be her only injury, knowing that she was not having the worst of these injuries that we're hearing now, because another eyewitness saying that suddenly the bar was filled with a huge cloud of black smoke, saying they couldn't breathe. This is Axel and Nathan, who are in the bar last night, they say, and they said the windows were jammed, and actually it's Nathan who said he thought he was going to die, but managed to kick the glass and it fell, and that's how they got out. But they're still waiting for news of what their friends' conditions are in, like so many other people there in this Swiss resort. And
that's the other tragedy of this horrific fire, is that because of, as you've mentioned, Will, the extensive damage to the building caused by the fire, the fact that, unfortunately, sorry to say, some of the injuries of the deceased are so bad, identification is making it hard work, and that means you've got youngsters, you've got 16, 17, 19, 20-year-olds just waiting at the scene, families, friends who are missing, and waiting to hear the news, maybe the inevitable news that they didn't want. The Swiss prosecutor Beatrice Pilaud has just announced something where he said there are several hypotheses on the table about the fire's cause, so not yet committing to the reports we've been discussing from eyewitnesses that it was potentially a sparkler lighting the ceiling.
Yeah, lots of things on the table there for them, trying to establish how this fire took place as they launch this legal inquiry. And the Swiss prosecutor Beatrice Pilaud also saying their priority is now on the forensic work to be able to identify the victims and return the bodies to their families. And earlier on in the press conference, the Swiss police chief for Valais canton, Frederick Gisler, said it may take several days to return the bodies to their families as this identification process takes place, due to the nature of these burns injuries, as they've confirmed around 40 people killed, not giving an exact number yet. Earlier on today, we were reporting that the Italian foreign minister when he was speaking to Sky Television in Italy, saying that the death toll stood at 47. But Swiss authorities in this press conference happening now, speaking in France, saying it's about 40 people killed. Also saying, again, reiterating the fact that about 100 people injured, most of them seriously. So lots of new information were coming now, and they've also said, as they're talking about this legal inquiry opening into the fire, they said we've retrieved many telephones from the scene to help with gathering evidence, and no doubt that will help them with their hypotheses as they continue to try and establish exactly what caused this fire. They will have no doubt spoken to the eyewitnesses who the media have spoken to, taking their accounts, but now with this phone footage that they say they've got, presumably that will be helping them as well.
Yeah, I mean, they should have plenty to go on. The footage doing the rounds online is extraordinary. Apparently, it was the Swiss president's first day in office today. Guy Parmelin, who we just saw at the press conference here live now in Switzerland, not the chap on your screen, it was the chap who first came on your screen. So he had glasses. He's an older guy, maybe in his 60s. It's his first day in office today. He was only recently elected, and I think he started this morning with congratulatory messages from the leaders of different countries, the UAE, I think even Great Britain as well, saying congratulations on your election success. Well, goodness me, that's a throw into the deep end, dealing with what he has described at this press conference as one of Switzerland's worst ever tragedies. And also different leaders across the world have been commenting. French President Emmanuel Macron expressing his condolences. He wrote on X, "To Switzerland, to its people and to its authorities, I convey the full solidarity of France and our fraternal support." Apparently, according to reports, 2 French people are among the injured. I think Giorgia Meloni, the Italian leader, commented as well. Will, did you mention earlier that there was, from the Italian foreign minister, who said, was it 16 Italians among the dead?
Among the missing, 16 and 15 in hospital. And Giorgio Meloni also speaking earlier giving a statement saying the Prime Minister would personally, on behalf of the government, would like to express her deepest condolences for the tragic fire that broke out in Crans-Montana, Switzerland. President Meloni is closely monitoring the situation and is in close contact with the Vice President Antonio Tajani to gather all the information on the incident and the possible involvement of fellow Swiss citizens. She thanks the civil protection resources already operational and expresses her sympathy to the families of the victims, the injured, and the Swiss institutions and the people. And the Italians are giving some information earlier on about the number of people who have been reported missing to them, standing at 16, and that 15 other Italians being treated in hospital. And that number of injured now being confirmed at this press conference as being 115, and they've given some details saying 80 were taken to hospital in a critical incident in the early hours of the morning, as 150 first responders got to the scene within, the first of them just within 2 minutes after the first signs of smoke were seen at this bar. Also 40 ambulances and 10 air ambulances on the scene at what was a major incident, and 35 people further then took themselves to hospital with injuries suffered in this horrific fire. Some of them no doubt burn injuries, others will be smoke inhalation injuries, some perhaps injured in the evacuation of this bar as people sought to leave in an incredible rush. One eyewitness thought there was about 200 people in the basement when the fire started, and so all of them trying to go up these stairs, and some of them weren't able to get up the stairs, so smashed a window, eyewitnesses saying, and went out of this smashed window, and so that is how some of them were able to get out and about. So confirmed in this press conference then around 40 people who have died and around 115 injured in this fire that happened in the early hours of this morning, 1:30 Swiss time, and they also said 1:32 is when the first responders arrived, and victims sent to several different hospitals throughout Switzerland, and they've said that identifying those dead and injured will take some time, but wanting to reassure those worried in Switzerland that is their priority, trying to return the bodies to their families and also to try and reunite families with injured loved ones in hospital being treated for their injuries at the moment. And the Swiss president, of course, saying this is one of the worst tragedies in the country's history.
And just to remind ourselves, Will, as you mentioned previously, the emergency service response sounds incredible. Matthias Reynard, who is the head of the Valais Canton Council, gave some more detail at this press conference. Pictures you can see on your screen now, which is being held in French. It's conducted in French. He said that 42 ambulances, 13 helicopters and 3 disaster trucks were deployed from across the region. 35 people sought care themselves, but the big figure there, Will, I mean, if we think this is a tragedy right now with 40 to 47, as we understand, confirmed dead, 80 people were rushed to hospital in a serious condition. So, yeah, more patients have been taken to larger specialist hospitals, he said. And yeah, I mean, it just sounds like it's getting worse and worse. Chilling, as I said, chilling echoes of Grenfell some years ago. 70-odd people killed in that terrible fire in central London. And do you know what? Sorry, in West London. It highlights again how something so simple, a great night out, the hope and the optimism of a new year can be just taken out in a heartbeat. And I'm really keen to know, Will, actually, as soon as we can find out, what did cause this fire? Because although the authorities now at the press conference are saying there are many options on the table, they're not committing to any one particular answer. Many reports from eyewitnesses who were in that club, or the bar, the club, were saying that they saw potentially a sparkler or a candle from the top of a champagne bottle, as you'd normally see maybe in, I don't know, clubs in Ibiza or Dubai where you have waitresses coming out with sparklers in champagne bottles. Something caught fire on the ceiling. Was it the venue itself? Was it maybe Christmas decorations? We don't know, we're just speculating. Somebody's suggesting maybe it was foam soundproofing to dampen the noise vibrations into other buildings. Something caught fire rapidly, Will. We don't know the answer just yet, but I'm very, very keen to know how. I mean, if it erupted within seconds, you'd have to think it wasn't just wooden panelling, the wooden structure of the venue.
Well, no doubt, yeah, authorities will be wanting to know the answer as quickly as they can, because this bar was being described as an institution, a long-serving bar known around the area and also known by tourists internationally. And so if this has happened in this bar, could something similar happen in other bars as well? And so authorities will want to be able to understand exactly what caused this, to ensure if they have to put further legislation in place to prevent this kind of fire from happening in other bars, they are able to do so. We've also heard from this press conference a little bit more about the timeline that took place in the early hours of this morning, because it was 1:30 when smoke was first noticed. Seconds later, an eyewitness contacted police, and then just 2 minutes later they arrived on the scene, and it was what they when they mobilised emergency services, it was put out as a red alert for emergency services reacting as quickly as they can. The top priority, they quickly understood just what the challenge they were facing, and when first responders first arrived, they provided aid and took victims to hospitals. Firefighters were then said to have quickly put out the fire, they were saying at this press conference. Then at 4:14 a.m, a helpline was opened for families to reach out and get in touch to ask questions and inquire about their loved ones if they hadn't heard from them. And this information has come from the Valais Canton Police Commander Frederick Gisler, who has said for him, this has been a very moving time for him, even as a police officer, talking about the challenges of something so terrible and horrific happening in his community. And he went on to say, because this is an international resort, we think that there are international victims, but identifying those who have died may take several days.
Will, thanks very much. A really sobering story, horrific story, which is developing. We'll bring you the latest. The Foreign Office has said our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in the terrible tragedy in Crans, Montana, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response. And as I said, it has chilling echoes of Grenfell. Who knows what caused the fire? Hopefully we'll find out soon. But I'm just reading here, even Grenfell, still now, the firms behind that flammable cladding still receiving multi-million pounds public contracts from the government. So even years on, not a lot has been done. Thanks for sticking with us on GB News. We're going to get your weather in just a tick, and we'll be back with more from Switzerland and beyond. I'm Ben Leo. See you in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office, and Happy New Year. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We'll have frequent snow showers, especially across Scotland, with frost and ice. So low pressure is situated to the east, high pressure towards the west. That's dragging down this northerly flow, bringing in cold and Arctic air. So snow showers mostly across Scotland as we head through the rest of this evening. But across Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain, sleet and snow, and that's going to eventually edge into Wales, central parts of England and the southeast. So 1 or 2 centimetres is possible, but the main thing is to start Friday morning, there could be an ice risk. So a cold start to Friday morning with a frost and ice in places. This band of cloud and rain will gradually sink its way southwards, but across Scotland, that's still where we hold on to frequent snow showers, especially across parts of the east, and accumulations will start building. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells mixed in with some wintry showers, and likewise across Wales and the southwest. This band of cloud and rain, though, will gradually start sinking its way southwards, but across eastern areas and across northern areas, that's where we're going to see plenty of winter's sunshine as we go through Friday. Still holding on to some brisk winds, especially across Scotland and running down that eastern coast, and there'll be a few showers just running into Northern Ireland as well. Some of these could be wintry, but for all of us on Friday, it's going to be feeling cold out there, especially compared to today, with the brisk winds still across the north. So a cold and frosty night to come as we go through Friday night and into Saturday, still with some wintry hazards, especially across coastal areas, and that theme continues as we head into the weekend. Plenty of sunshine inland, but still with the risk of frost, ice and some snow.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A939 is closed at the snow gates between Tomintoul and Cockbridge because of adverse weather. In Yorkshire, Northamptonshire's M1 northbound entry slip at junction 40 has a broken down vehicle with one of 2 lanes closed. Normal conditions are expected between 5:15 and 5:30 this evening. In Cheshire, the M6 southbound exit slip at junction 18 is shut for road management with all lanes closed. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, while Cross Country reports major engineering work in the Cambridge area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus us to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Ben Leo, on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK with all the very latest news, debate and analysis until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on today's show. 40 people have died and 115 are seriously injured following a fire in a bar at a popular tourist spot in Switzerland. We'll have all the very latest on the horrific tragedy which is developing as we speak throughout the show.
Well, the Swiss president has said this is one of the worst tragedies in the country's history and warned that it will take some time to identify the victims of this fire.
Elsewhere, find out why Green Party leader Zelensky would be prepared to form a coalition government with Labour to stop one Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister. But here's the caveat. He says he wouldn't work with Sir Keir Starmer. I wonder why not. Also,
Seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people.
well, do you believe them? Because after more than 41,000 small boat migrants arrived in 2025, the immigration minister just there, Mike Tapp, he tells us why Labour can get a grip, according to him, on the crisis this year. And will you remain faithful to the new traitors? Because the highly anticipated 4th season of the popular hit BBC show launches today with 22 new contestants heading for the Highlands for a ruthless game of secrecy and lies. We'll be joined very shortly by a former contestant. And we'll be getting reaction to Zohan Mamdani being sworn in as New York City's first ever Muslim mayor with, again, first ever, his hand on the Quran instead of a Bible. That's all coming now until 6 o'clock. Oh, we got there in the end, didn't I? I think it was last night catching up on me, perhaps. Hope you enjoyed the New Year's Eve show. If you've missed it, it was between 10 and 1 a.m. It was myself, Bev Turner, Alex Armstrong, Darren Grimes and Miriam Cates. If you missed it, we had lots of fun welcoming in the new year. I think it's on YouTube now for you to fill your boots with lots of fun and frolics. Send your views on gbnews.com/your say, or you can scan the QR code, which is on your screens now. And if you're like my mum, who probably doesn't know how to use a QR code, just open the camera on your phone, put the camera over the QR code down the bottom there, and a little yellow link should pop up. Just click it, and you can get in contact. Time now for your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. It's just gone 5 o'clock. These are your headlines. As you've been hearing, Swiss police have confirmed 40 people are dead, many of them young people, following a fire at a crowded bar in a Swiss ski resort. The Swiss president has been giving an update on what he called one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known. The blast happened at the Le Constellation bar in the resort of Crans, Montana, with around 115 people injured, most of them seriously. Authorities say victims include several nationalities, with France's foreign ministry confirming French nationals are among those injured. Meanwhile, 16 Italians have been reported missing and around a dozen more Italian nationals are being treated in hospital. The intensive care unit at Valais Hospital is now at full capacity, with patients being transferred elsewhere. Police say the incident is not being treated as terrorism. Meanwhile, eyewitnesses have told France's local media that they saw the fire start in the basement section of the club after a bottle containing birthday candles was held up too close to the wooden ceiling. Now, small boat crossings increased last year despite Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to smash the people smuggling gangs. 41,500 Channel migrants reached Britain in 2025, making it the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said smash the gangs is a complete disaster, the one-in one-out deal is a farce and the numbers coming over are huge. While Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philps said only the Conservatives are prepared to do what control requires and will leave the ECHR. But the Immigration Minister, Mike Tapp, told GB News he's confident in Labour's new measures.
Inherited open borders. We've seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people, and of course counter-terror powers to take on the smuggling gangs, and I'm confident we'll make progress.
Household bills are set to rise today, while temperatures across the country plummet, with snow expected in some areas. The energy price cap increase comes just as a swathe of cold health alerts have been issued for large areas of the UK. Ofgem says the average household will now pay £1,758 a year for gas and electricity, which is just £3 more than before. In other news, Volodymyr Zelensky has said a peace agreement to end the war with Russia is 90% ready. The Ukrainian president made the comments in a New Year address that largely focused on resistance to Moscow's full-scale invasion. Zelensky said the remaining 10% of the agreement to end nearly 4 years of conflict would determine the fate of peace, the fate of Ukraine and of Europe. Meanwhile, in his own New Year speech, Russian President Vladimir Putin told his troops that we believe in you and our victory. Now, Enzo Maresca has left his role as Chelsea manager after 18 months in charge. That's according to the Premier League club. The Italian manager's departure had been expected following a breakdown in relations with key figures at Stamford Bridge. And people in China will start to pay 13% sale tax on contraceptives as of today in a bid to try to boost the birth rates. An overhaul of the tax system announced late last year removes many exemptions that were in place since 1994, when China was still enforcing its decade-long one-child rule. But experts are raising concerns over potential increases in unplanned pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases due to higher costs for contraceptives. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Thank you, Sophia, and good afternoon to you. Happy New Year. Some bad news, really, to start the new year. As Sophia was just saying, 40 people killed, 115 injured in that Swiss bar fire at a New Year's Eve party. Many of them, unfortunately, young people, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. Will Godley, our national reporter, is here in the studio. Will, what's the latest, please?
Well, yeah, tragic news, and the big question is, how did this fire start? And that was something touched upon in this press conference that took place in the last hour, and they said that there are several hypotheses on the table about what's caused this fire. They have now launched a legal inquiry into the cause of this fire, and to help them with their assessment and their understanding, they've retrieved, they say, many telephones from the scene to help gather evidence. But this, of course, all comes after we've heard throughout the day from eyewitnesses, two of whom who spoke to French media, saying that they saw the fire start when sparklers attached to a champagne bottle got too close to the ceiling, and that is when this fire started. And they said that just in a matter of seconds, the fire erupted throughout the basement where some 200 or so people were, and that's when the blaze spread throughout the basement front of the bar and just within a few minutes into the into the ground floor of the bar as well. But the Swiss authorities are not confirming that at this stage, saying that they have several hypotheses, and journalists in the last few minutes have been questioning them on that theory, asking if bottles with sparklers on were used in the bar. Well, I can tell you the Valais Canton Attorney General said at this stage they're not in a position to confirm that theory yet. She was also asked about the staircase in the bar. Of course, eyewitnesses said that when panic set in, the staircase was not big enough to allow everybody to get out in a quick enough way. And we've heard from other eyewitnesses who have talked about how the windows were smashed in order for people to escape the flames and the smoke that quickly, in just a few seconds, engulfed the bar. And the Attorney General said, admitted that the staircase seemed relatively narrow and said that an investigation will determine whether safety standards were complied with. So that's something Swiss authorities will be looking at. But when a journalist asked whether about the nationalities of victims and the regularity of fire safety checks, the police commander speaking said he cannot rule out that some victims are of different nationalities, but they're not yet at a stage where they can answer many of the questions that they would like to. This investigation is still very, very much underway. One journalist asked those at this press conference whether any people had been arrested yet at this stage. The security chief speaking, Stephanie Ganser, said no arrests have been made yet and no suspects have been identified. They went on to say the fire was an accident that produced explosions in a blast. Explosions did not cause the fire, though. Some confusion about that earlier on today, but the fire, the explosions did not cause the fire. So perhaps that fire caused the explosion, a secondary thing there. And they've said their working assumption is that the general fire caused an explosion and that now what's happening there is expert analysis is taking place to determine the circumstances of this fire, but of course had devastating consequences. Around 40 people confirmed dead. Earlier on today, the Italian foreign minister said 47 people had died, and now in this press conference, 115 people confirmed injured.
Yeah, and just so many people injured still, and still because of the extent of, as we've been hearing, the extent of the injuries to the deceased, identification, sorry to say, is proving difficult, and the agonising weight of the friends and the families at the scene. Goodness me, a terrible way to start 2026. And I mean, the Swiss president calling it one of the worst tragedies in the country's history. And I keep saying, reminds me of Grenfell, but is this the Swiss Grenfell? What did cause the fire? Will, thank you very much. Great stuff. I'm joined now by the journalist Alexander Seal. Alexander, Happy New Year. Good afternoon. Thanks for your company. What are you hearing, Alexander?
Yes, so this was an international New Year crowd in this venue. There were lots of young people there, and victims include nationalities from several countries, France, Germany, Italy. And so Switzerland's president has thanked neighboring countries for their support, and communication channels have been opened with foreign ministries across the world to assist families abroad. But it's really, as you just said, it really shocked Switzerland. Flags will be flying half-mast for 5 days. The inquiry will continue, and thank goodness, terrorism has been ruled out for the moment. So really, forensic teams will continue to analyze the site. Identification of victims continue and could take days. Switzerland is working with foreign governments to support affected nationals, and hospitals are preparing for long-term treatment and rehabilitation for dozens of severely injured survivors. So authorities say lessons must be learned to ensure such a tragedy never happens again.
Yeah, lessons must be learned. We hear that quite a lot, don't we? And our own Will Godley was saying earlier, you know, who knows what the cause of the fire is yet? We're still waiting. But will there be, I mean, potentially, if it was something like soundproofing foam, which has been mooted by some eyewitnesses to international media, if it was flammable foam, where else? What other venues have the foam in their buildings to kind of, dampen the music of the bar? It just reminds me of Grenfell. Alexander, thanks very much. Alexander Seal. We're still waiting, of course, for the precise reason for the fire. But let's talk to travel journalist Simon Calder, who joins me live now. Simon, Happy New Year. Sorry I'm speaking to you under these circumstances, but just tell us, please, about more about this Swiss resort where this tragedy's taken place. What kind of people go there? Many Brits there at all, Simon?
Really good questions, particularly since the police commander, Frédéric Gisler, has actually just said in that press conference we were hearing about that he believes foreign nationals will be among the victims of this terrible, terrible tragedy. However, it is a resort which is much more a kind of upmarket resort, particularly popular with French, with Spanish, with Italians, and with particularly Swiss skiers. It's got fantastic range of runs, but it is expensive. For example, while this coming week you could get probably a package holiday skiing in France or Italy for maybe £500 per person, it would cost you probably 3 times as much. And so it's not a mass market destination. Certainly there are some British people there, but it's actually very difficult to see what will be happening in the immediate future. I mean, there will be people flying out to Geneva and Zurich this weekend on trips, I guess, that were due to take them to Crans-Montana. The tourist board has actually just put out a statement to our visitors, friends and partners. That's just appeared on the website of Crans-Montana Tourism, and they say it is with great deep sadness and great emotion that we face the tragic events that occurred in our destination during the night. Our thoughts are with the victims and their families. We would also like to express our sincere gratitude to all individuals and the emergency services who provided assistance and who continue to do so. Very somber tone there. And this was, of course, a place of great celebration until the tragedy unfolded. And New Year is an extremely popular time for people to be taking breaks, going skiing. I've done so myself, not here, across in Austria. And it's a fantastic time to be away. You're in the deep midwinter, so therefore you've generally got very good snow conditions. But on top of that, you can celebrate New Year. And of course, it is for many people, the après-ski, going off, eating, drinking, making merry is very much part of the skiing idea. And to learn, as we have been doing, that so many young people are presumed to be victims of this is just beyond appalling. It's such a deep tragedy. I think another thing which we will perhaps see is that we will get tourists, whether they're going skiing or whether they're going on ordinary resort holidays to get some winter sun, paying a lot more attention to the potential fire hazards and their means of escape.
I was going to say, Simon, what's your travel advice to any Brits now watching this breaking story today who are off on their holidays to, I don't know, to Verbier, wherever? Keep going still? If you enter a bar or a venue, maybe give a couple of minutes to work out your escape routes if need be. What's your advice?
That is absolutely spot on. I mean, it actually begins at the hotel. So whenever I arrive in a hotel, I find the room. The first thing I do, put down my bag and then figure out where the escape route would be. And indeed, if it seems appropriate, I will actually go and follow that route and make sure that there's nothing blocking the exit. But clearly, this happened in a crowded bar with inadequate means of escape, and I think people will be thinking twice. Here's a really crowded place. Does it have sufficient safety measures in place were a fire to break out? Now, clearly, building safety, any kind of travel safety, is built upon tragedies, and we will no doubt see in Switzerland some very serious changes to the building regulations, to the management of fire in hotels and in restaurants and bars to try to avoid anything like this happening again.
Yeah, I think we are minutes away from a vigil taking place on the scene in Switzerland. We'll have live pictures for viewers back home as well. Simon, for the time being, thanks very much. Appreciate your company. That's travel journalist Simon Calder there. Will Godley's still with me now in the studio. Will, we are, as I said, a few minutes away from having seeing the live vigil taking place. Any other update in the meantime from the authorities?
Well, that vigil no doubt will be attended by a huge number of people there at Crans-Montana, where, of course, we've been seeing throughout the day people desperately putting out calls on social media, asking if anybody has seen their loved ones who haven't been seen since this fire took place. And no doubt this vigil will be very, very poignant, but also a time when people reflecting and very, very emotional, coming together as a community who just a few hours ago were in a scene of panic and chaos as this fire tore through this bar described as an institution bar in Crans-Montana. But now they're coming together in a state of sadness and mourning, coming together as this vigil will be taking place. And if you're watching, you're seeing scenes of the emergency response. Now Crans-Montana has been shut down. There's police tape all around the city as this investigation continues, and lots of forensic officers continuing their work there. And of course we did just have that press conference as well, and one of the people speaking there was talking about those injured, where a number of them are currently in specialised hospitals throughout Switzerland, but because of the demands of their injuries and just how much support that they need, many of them will be soon transferred to neighbouring countries, to France, to Italy, who are offering to help out with the treatment of these people. Many people having horrific injuries, and it's no wonder really when we're seeing images of just how ferocious this blaze was, and people desperate to escape the flames, bashing down windows to really escape this horrific fire that tore through this building, as the authorities try and work out exactly what caused this blaze, and that forensic work ongoing. And they said that that is their priority, to try and identify the victims, to return them to their families, many of whom will be attending this vigil happening this hour in the next few minutes in Switzerland. As already throughout the day we've been seeing flowers laid and other messages of support and sadness shared throughout people there, and other things, other notes from this press conference as well, saying that, of course, the president saying this is one of the worst tragedies the country has ever known, and that's something many people will be reflecting on at this vigil, maybe who aren't just there at this one, but throughout Switzerland and throughout the world. Really just feeling a total sense of sadness and sorrow for this town, who, of course, was welcoming in the new year like so many other ski alpine villages were in Switzerland. This is a tradition that many Swiss people do on New Year's, go to these après bars on New Year's, bring in the New Year's in this alpine community, but here in Crans-Montana, total tragedy.
Yeah, many Brits indeed as well. Simon Calder saying that these ski resorts across Switzerland, very popular with Brits. If you've got a couple of quid in the bank, maybe be going to Verbier and the likes over the new year. I say again, I'll repeat myself, but I'll say it because it's pertinent. Just shows the fragility of life. Again, with the Anthony Joshua car crash some days ago, where he saw his two best mates gone in an instant in front of his own eyes. 1 minute you're enjoying life, you're seeing in the new year with hope and optimism. The next 40+ people dead, more than 100 injured, some seriously. Joining me now is former Detective Chief Superintendent for the Met Police, Kevin Hurley. Kevin, good afternoon. Thanks for your company. What's your take on this horrific tragedy?
Well, it's difficult to say exactly what's gone on because it will all come down in the end to what the witnesses say and, of course, most importantly, what the forensic examination will come up with. But, I mean, I suppose I would say it from a personal point of view and also having investigated many instances where people have died in fires, people at first don't actually know what's going on. Lots of merriment going on, a lot of drink flowing, great spirits. Even if people started shouting and screaming, everyone would be thinking it's part of that event. And of course, by then, it's too late. I think the main points here are, did the company operating that bar break the actual regulations for fire regulations in Switzerland? That's the issue. And here, sorry, I've not opened my camera.
That's okay.
Right.
You're out of vision anyway, Kevin. Carry on.
Sorry, I'm not opening the camera. Did the company breach fire regulations? And it would seem to me, if what we're hearing is correct, that there was a large number of people there and only one means of escape, then they're almost undoubtedly in breach of the fire regulations. Because I'm pretty certain in a sophisticated country like Switzerland, they will have very advanced regulations and they will have a system where their local fire brigade or public health inspectors come round and check compliance. But it may well be, again, this is conjecture, that the people who run the place didn't comply. Either way, I suspect there will be some prosecutions that will come out of this in the end. For some form of manslaughter, health and safety violations resulting in death. I'm just using the British example of what we would do there. Of course, it doesn't make any difference for the family, other than they might get an element of closure because they'll want to know who's responsible. But it's far too early to say at this stage what the actual cause of it was, who was negligent, who was responsible.
Yeah.
So we'll need to wait and see what the forensic experts have got to say, because this will not just be dealt with by local crime scene investigators who would turn up for, how shall I put it, your standard murder, your standard shooting. They will bring specialist laboratory scientists who have got their own specialisms in causes of fire, and they will then look at this in far more detail, how the fire spread, where the accelerants were that led it to go forward, the various building materials. And of course, was there any possibility that liquid propane gas cylinders that would have been used to power the heat sources up there were not well protected? Who knows? But if you look at this and then we look at the dreadful Grenfell inquiry, it's taken several years to get some indication of what's gone on there, because of course the Grenfell fire inquiry is still going on as we speak.
Yeah, and Kevin, I was reading earlier, because this had chilling echoes of Grenfell, I was reading that some of the companies involved in providing and manufacturing the cladding from Grenfell are still being awarded multi-million-pound contracts, public contracts. So, yeah, who knows what the cause of this fire was? We'll find out, I guess, in the coming hours and days. But the Valais Canton prosecutor, Beatrice Pilaud, was questioned by a member of the press, saying she can't comment just yet on reports that a candle set alight a wooden ceiling at the bar. I mean, just thinking logistically, how would a candle set fire to a massive wooden beam so instantly? And Pilaud was asked about emergency exits at the bar, saying it was too early to draw any conclusions, because eyewitnesses said there was only one narrow staircase to access or leave the basement bar, meaning that some of those who were in the venue at the time, as the fire broke out, were trapped. And additionally, as of yet, Kevin, Pilaud says there have been no arrests and no suspects, and she says it was not a deliberate act. However, there were several questions from journalists at that press conference asking, as you said, Kevin, about the maximum capacity of the bar. How many people, according to their licence, were allowed in the bar at any one time? And Pilaud said the capacity at the moment was completely unknown, but we know there were at least 100 people in there, because 40-odd have sadly died and 115 have been injured. So you'd have to think it was well over 100.
Yeah, I mean, the prosecutors essentially taking the route that I'm in, which is you don't know enough yet to form a view. And of course, no one is going to be arrested for many, many months, I would suspect, because it's all going to come back to scientific evidence, gathering lots and lots and lots of witness statements, then actually simulating the causes of how that fire spread. So they'll get hold of the material. The scientists will construct simulated fires before they form a view. So there's not going to be any arrest on this anytime soon, not unlike the Grenfell inquiry, where there's no one yet being prosecuted, although I'm sure there will be.
Kevin, thanks very much. Appreciate your company. Happy New Year to you. That's Kevin Hurley, former Detective Chief Superintendent for the Metropolitan Police. GBNews.com/your say if you want to get in contact about any of today's stories. We'll bring you live pictures from a vigil in Switzerland very, very shortly. But now to the rest of the day's news. Let's go stateside, shall we, across the pond, where New York City's first Muslim mayor, Zohan Mamdani, has been sworn in while holding not a Bible, but a Quran. He was elected mayor for a 4-year term back in November. He's previously been branded a communist lunatic by the likes of President Trump. And in return, Mamdani called the president a despot with a fascist agenda. We're joined now by Greg Swenson, who's the chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. Greg, Happy New Year. Good to see you, my friend. I'm struggling to get my words out. I think hopefully the year gets a bit better on that front. But in terms of Mamdani, his year's off to a cracker. He's been sworn in, the first Muslim mayor of New York and the first mayor of New York to be sworn in using not a Bible, but a Quran. Greg, what does that say about the state of New York politics?
Yeah, it's not good, and I think that's the least of the problems with Comrade Mamdani. You know, this is a lot. You know, he has a lot of similarities to Sadiq Khan in London, and I think we've sort of seen this movie before. Same with Chicago, where we've had Brandon Johnson, who's while a Christian allegedly, he is very much a progressive left socialist, and so I think the similarities are vast between Mamdani and Sadiq Khan. You've got, the electorate that keeps them in power. It's a combination of the progressive left and then the immigrant population in both New York and London. So there's a lot of similarities between the two, and I think the expectations are not great right now.
Mamdani is by all accounts, a gobby so-and-so, but he is a good talker. Even President Trump admits he's slick, he can deliver a good speech, he's great at answering media questions. And I think, despite being at complete opposite ends of the political spectrum, of course, Trump reckons he's a communist, Mamdani reckons Trump is a fascist, both probably slightly wide of the mark, to say the least. But they are, maybe, Greg, they share one thing in common, which is they're both anti-establishment. Much like, I guess, Zach Polansky and Nigel Farage here. Two completely different blokes, but they're anti-establishment.
Yeah, and I think they appealed to the populist wing of their respective parties, that's for sure. And they also appealed to the fact that, that cost of living and affordability is a real issue. Now, they have vastly different solutions for that, but I think they have that similarity. And you're right, he is a talented politician. He's got the gift of gab. He's also very, given his age, he was really tuned into the social media campaigning and did a really good job. I mean, he was way down in the polls to Governor Cuomo, or former Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. Back in
what are some of his policies, Greg? What did he run on? What are New Yorkers going to expect now?
Look, it could be a disaster, although I think he's backed away from some of his most controversial stuff. But he'll try his best to implement rent control. That will be a disaster for the supply of housing. Rents will go up. Developers will stop building. So that's probably a near to medium term disaster. He's very favorable to the public unions. Basically lining their pockets rather than, repairing the transit system in New York. He's also very averse to cleaning up homelessness or homeless encampments. Now, Mayor Adams, we had a reprieve from the progressive mess of Bill de Blasio in New York, for 8 years. But Eric Adams, for 4 years, he's been about 3,000 homeless encampment cleanups a year. That will end. So we can expect much worse crime, much worse homelessness issues in New York City.
Yeah, and also I think, I don't know if he'll still be pursuing this, but he wants sort of publicly funded, government grocery stores, defunds the police, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine how that's going to go.
He's backed away from the defund the police stuff, and he kept Jessica Tisch, who's a really well-respected and successful police commissioner. So at least for the near term, he's keeping her on board. But he's going to raise taxes, or at least try. That might be stopped by the state government. It has to, really the state government or the governor controls the taxes, but he'll try his best. It's already the highest tax rate in America. Their state and city income tax is 14.8%. He wants to raise it to 16.8%. That's on top of the 40% roughly, federal rate that New Yorkers pay. So yeah, the grocery store, issue, that's a guaranteed failure.
Yeah, well, I'll be staying well away from New York if it comes to residency. Greg Swenson, thanks very much. I'll see you next week, probably. I'm flying back to DC to continue the good fight. Thanks, Greg.
See you in
Take
DC.
care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Right, let's go back to the situation in Switzerland where the vigil is now taking place. National reporter Will Godley is still with me. Will, I think we've got some live pictures of the vigil coming imminently. What's the latest?
Well, yeah, that vigil began inside the church of Crans-Montana at 6 o'clock local time, so 5 p.m. this evening. A service there some 30 or so minutes ago, and it began with the bells of the church ringing out, and we're expecting people to leave that church and then come outside to the main square in Crans-Montana, where a number of flowers have been laid and candles are there at the scene. This is one of the cameras there now, looking a little bit out of focus there as we just bring it into focus. You can see the flowers and the candles there as we're expecting people to gather there after this church service. Of people there in the community really trying to come together at a time of mourning. This, of course, has been declared as one of Switzerland's worst tragedies in the country's history, declared today by the country's president, Guy Parmelin, who said that many of the victims were youths, and we know that in Switzerland the drinking age is 16, so people from that age would have been there drinking as they entered in New Year's. Some people might have been younger than 16 there as well, and this press conference they gave a number of updates on those injured, saying the number of people injured stands at 115, and the number of people who have tragically lost their lives in this fire is at around 40 people. And during this church service, no doubt they will be prayed for, and then people will be coming together to think about them and have them in their thoughts, and also pray for those who are injured. Most of the people who are injured we know to be seriously injured, with a number of burns, and so that vigil happening at the moment in Crans-Montana.
Will, thanks very much. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back on the scene there at the vigil fairly shortly. If you're watching GB News, if you're listening to us live, I'm Ben Leo covering for Martin Daubney. Happy New Year to you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a tick.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office, and Happy New Year. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We'll have frequent snow showers, especially across Scotland, with frost and ice. So low pressure is situated to the east, high pressure towards the west. That's dragging down this northerly flow, bringing in cold and Arctic air. So snow showers mostly across Scotland as we head through the rest of this evening. But across Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain, sleet and snow, and that's going to eventually edge into Wales, central parts of England and the southeast. So 1 or 2 centimetres is possible, but the main thing is to start Friday morning, there could be an ice risk. So a cold start to Friday morning with a frost and ice in places. This band of cloud and rain will gradually sink its way southwards, but across Scotland, that's still where we hold on to frequent snow showers, especially across parts of the east, and accumulations will start building. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells mixed in with some wintry showers, and likewise across Wales and the southwest. This band of cloud and rain, though, will gradually start sinking its way southwards. westwards, but across eastern areas and across northern areas, that's where we're going to see plenty of winter's sunshine as we go through Friday. Still holding on to some brisk winds, especially across Scotland and running down that eastern coast. And there'll be a few showers just running into Northern Ireland as well. Some of these could be wintry. But for all of us on Friday, it's going to be feeling cold out there, especially compared to today, with the brisk winds still across the north. So a cold and frosty night to come as we go through Friday night and into Saturday, still with some wintry hazards, especially across coastal areas. And that theme continues as we head into the weekend. Plenty of sunshine inland, but still with the risk of frost, ice and some snow.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Ben Leo in for Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, with the cost of living rising, rents climbing and uncertainty after the last budget, Happy New Year, money concerns are on the rise. According to new figures from KPMG, 58% of you now believe the UK economy is getting worse. That's a 15-point increase since the start of last year. Meanwhile, by the way, I will say, in America, the last quarter, their GDP figures were, I think it was 4.3%, something that Rachel Reeves could only dream of. But I'm joined now by the entrepreneur and financial mentor, Ed Enver. Ed, welcome along. Happy New Year. I guess the question is, where should people be parking their money? Where should Brits who are concerned about the cost of living? I mean, I'd argue most people, actually, Ed, don't have any money to invest. They're just trying to keep their head above water.
Well, you could argue that, right? Because particularly with a lot of the stats that come out, they'll throw out these big numbers around savings and how much people have, but it's skewed. Clearly, it's skewed. But I think you set the scene well there with the whole panic. You know, when you talk about money, people are generally concerned about money. That's the truth of it. So more often than not, as a financial advisor, the starting point is to almost take people off the ledge, right? And make them realise that if you're going to take money seriously in 2026, it shouldn't be approached like a crash diet, right? And this is probably good timing for where we are now. Because a lot of people just go from one extreme to another, and ultimately you don't want to be in a situation where you try to oversave and then put yourself off as well, you know?
It was a record year for the FTSE 100 last year.
Yes.
What about stocks? Because in America, again, I keep banging on about America because I've just, as people probably know by now, I've just spent 4 months there.
Yeah.
But it's you have something called a 401k, which is basically, it's pretty much mandatory to invest in the stock market.
Yes.
A portion of your pay pack goes into the stock market. Rachel Reeves was mooting something similar last year for Brits. But the FTSE 100, our stock market, had a record year. What do you make about parking your money in stocks?
Well, I think that my thought process behind that, Ben, is very much of the mindset that you're never going to time the markets, right? If we knew what was going to play out this year from a geopolitical perspective, you would have probably have said, just keep all of your money in cash. You wouldn't have even invested. So my thoughts behind that has always been to invest little and often, have that consistency of what they would term in America pound cost or dollar cost averaging, and just be consistent with the savings. And the stock market over a longer term period has always shown itself to be pretty strong.
And never invest more than you can afford to lose, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What about precious metals? Gold and silver have had up soaring years.
Yeah, they have. I mean, gold in particular at the moment is at a very, very strong position. Admittedly, to try and put all of your money at this price point, for me, would be a little bit nerve-wracking because it is very, very high. But to my original point, just be consistent with those savings. And instead of putting all of your money in, just be consistent with saving, but on a more regular basis. And I must say as well that, you know, cash at the moment is pretty cool as well, right? Interest rates have been pretty high for a consistent period. And whilst there's a lot of doom and gloom around mortgage rates and it being a lot more expensive, equally your savings are making a fair return without taking any risk.
Yeah, well said. Interesting. To be honest with you, you look at precious metals, gold, silver, sterling years, and you wouldn't really want to invest at the top. I mean, I'm no expert, but lastly, Ed, in terms of people who do not have money to invest, which I'd argue is the majority of people, as I said, many people I know from the lowest of the salaries to the highest of salaries are all just about keeping their head above water. I'd argue that it's probably designed to be that way, but for people who are struggling and watching the pennies and the pounds, what are your saving tips and your budgeting tips for 2026?
Yeah, my number one tip always, regardless of how much money someone has, is always going to be based around the foundations of having a strong budget. So just reviewing your expenditure, going over those expenses with a fine-tooth and comb, nothing flashy. Doesn't need to be a flashy app. Download your statements, monitor your expenditure, and you'd be surprised, Ben, that when you look at what's going out, you can tend to shave off a few things to then obviously save more.
Yeah, even small things like going through your bank statement, which I did the other week, and seeing all the different news websites and the subscriptions. I've like £5 a month, £10 a month. It all adds up. I'm thinking, I haven't used that damn site for 6 months, you know. So, Ed, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming in. Happy New Year to you. That's the financial mentor and entrepreneur, Ed Enver. Right, if you're in search of some holiday sun and you've got a spare few quid, here's the forecast for some top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Plenty of heavy and thundery rain across parts of southern Europe as we go through into the weekend. There's Storm Francis, which is heading towards Spain and Portugal, bringing heavy and thundery rain here. Also some heavy rain across parts of Italy, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, and the risk of some significant hill snow building up in parts as well. Into the weekend, well, there will be some dry weather around, but also further rain at times too. I'll see you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, one of my family members, friends, was looking after me one day, like babysitting me. And then on that day, it was a well-trusted friend of our family, was babysitting me and took me upstairs and he raped and abused me. So from then on, I've suffered and suffered. One of the things that he did say to me was that he would kill me or hurt me in my sleep. So ever since then, I've always suffered with PTSD, night terrors. It never goes away.
It took 20 years for you to face it to
20
this.
years, yeah, to ever come out about what had ever happened to me. My parents didn't know. I didn't tell them anything.
Because a lot of men in your position, a lot of boys in position, they'd rather just take the burden of shame on that comes at a great, can come at a great cost.
Yeah, lots of friends and family. And I was just scared to tell them, you know, because obviously as well, if I did ever say anything about it, he was going to come and get me. So I managed to find an organisation, which is charity run, called Arch Teesside, which is near where I live. And I went to go see them. And my therapy at the time, the guy was called Dave Taylor. And he was a big guy, full of tattoos. And, you know, when you see somebody, you think, how am I going to open up to somebody of this man, you know? And I hit it off, like, straight away. And I've always told him, this is what I love doing. I love going to the gym. I want to step on stage by the time I'm 40. And then that's what I went and did.
And look at you there, mate. I mean,
what modelling shots, yeah.
You said in your book there, hold your book up, people want to get a copy of this book. Tell them what it's called, mate.
Buy the book.
What's the book called, mate? Tell them.
It's called Breaking the Silence, A Champion's Journey.
And this is it. And your message that you say, if you help one other person out there to channel their pain into purpose, mission accomplished, mate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to Martin Daubney. I'm Ben Leo, covering for the big man today and tomorrow, you lucky so-and-sos. Right, let's move on, because tonight, as the nation rings in 2026, the BBC is launching a brand new season of Traitors. The much-anticipated show will see 22 strangers head to the Scottish Highlands to compete in a game of secrecy and lies in a bid to win £120,000. So, will you remain faithful to the new series of Traitors? I'm joined now by my panel. The former Traitors contestant from Season 1, Kieran Thompson, Season 1.
Correct.
And the journalist and commentator Candice Holdsworth. Candice, are you a fan of Traitors?
I watch it here and there. I'm not a super fan. Some of my friends are absolute super fans, so they'll cancel everything to watch the final of The Traitors. But just chatting to Kieran about it, I'm totally fascinated by the concept.
Yeah.
He says he thinks I'd be really good at all the sort of psychological games, so that's interesting.
So remind us, Kieran, were you a traitor or a faithful? And for people who haven't watched it, just briefly explain the concept.
It's a psychological warfare, I would say. It's held at a castle with 22 victims, I would say, that go to pit their skills against individuals. You have the traitors and you have the faithfuls, and the job is to try and catch the traitors, which is a lot harder than it looks.
So there's 5 or 6 odd people who are traitors, and they go around basically blagging it, saying, no, I'm a faithful, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, they normally pick 2 or 3 at the beginning. This year's got a massive twist, though, this year.
What's the twist?
There is a red cloak that's been in the build-up in the trailer, basically, that no one knows what it is. So there's lots of rumours going around online. Is it a secret traitor? Does this traitor have unusual powers? We don't know. So it's nice that they've mixed it up this year, because no one really knows what the hell's going on. They only released the cast last night about 11 o'clock, so the cast have not been revealed. They only came out late last night, so they've kept it really under wraps this year, which means one thing: drama.
So what's it like being in the castle then? So you were in Season 1. Just tell us about your own journey. How did you find it? Was it?
For me, it was. We didn't have anything to research on, so for me it was quite a brutal experience, because we couldn't watch a previous season to understand how the game plays. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity. It's changed my life in many different ways. But it was very hard to play, because we were playing on raw emotion and gut feelings. Now you can really have some fun as a traitor. You can be devious. You can really push the boundaries, and it's the biggest show on TV at the moment, so anyone that goes in it is certainly not going to do them any harm.
I've played lots of poker in the past, so I like to think
you'd be good.
Quite a good poker face.
I think anyone with intuition or naturally inquisitive will play it really well. There's times to sit back, there's times to talk, there's times to engage, there's times to not engage. So yeah, I think you've got all the skills there.
You got to be good at recognizing micro expressions, like if you play poker, people's tells, and everyone has a tell. Just maybe the way they narrow their eyes or move their mouth.
You'd be
I
great
love that
at
kind of
reading people.
stuff.
I think you definitely do well.
Candice, the BBC, of course, have been slammed. I mean, BBC News particularly for. Let's not bore ourselves by going back into it, but you know they have been. I mean, President Trump, just levels of incompetence and deceit. Well, Traitors, though, is a massive hit for the BBC. Is this proof that maybe the licence fee is worth it? It is value for money?
I mean, me personally, I would always say let the market decide. And honestly, with the success of something like Traitors, people will pay for that. If they like, leave it open to people to decide. I just have such a problem being forced to pay the licence fee. I think it's such an outdated model. If you're good, and that's the thing, it keeps you sharp, right? When you've got to make people pay for your service, it makes you do stuff like the Traitors, things that people actually want to watch.
And Kevin, so it's not produced by the BBC. It's Studio Lambert, Scotland.
Studio Lambert produce it, but it's obviously in conjunction with the BBC. But yeah, Studio Lambert are the brains behind the operation, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess because you were on the first season, you would never have known or expected that it would just blow up as it did.
No way. Ours was a slow burn. It was word of mouth. People came into work the next day. Have you seen The Traitors? And ours has not really stopped. I mean, the celebrity one was out nearly 6 weeks ago, and people have now gone back to season 1 to watch it. So there's not a day that goes past I still don't get messages about the trailer. So.
Great stuff. Tim, on your say, good evening, Tim. You've said, I will always be faithful to GB News. Lorraine has said, traitors, why promote a dreadful BBC show? Oh, all right. And Grant has said, I think Candice is adorable. I love the way she waves her arms all over the place. So there you go. And Stephen, I love this one, Stephen. Happy New Year to you. This wins the day. Starmer would win that show, hands down. Races, there we go. Right, thanks for your company tonight, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
Candice, and of course, you viewers and listeners at home. I'm back again covering for Martin tomorrow. He'll be back next week. Until then, it's Jubes & Co, presented by Miriam. Good evening.
Good evening, Ben, and we've got lots coming up on the show tonight. The court in Strasbourg has questioned the decision to strip Shamima Begum of her British citizenship. Now, our Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says that she will resist the Strasbourg ruling. But is this another example of why we must leave the ECHR? Or should we see Shamima Begum as a victim who was groomed and trafficked as a very young girl? And Michael Gove says he was wrong to withdraw support from Boris Johnson in 2016. All coming up after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office, and Happy New Year. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We'll have frequent snow showers, especially across Scotland, with frost and ice. So low pressure is situated to the east, high pressure towards the west. That's dragging down this northerly flow, bringing in cold and Arctic air. So snow showers mostly across Scotland as we head through the rest of this evening. But across Northern Ireland, we do have this band of rain, sleet and snow, and that's going to eventually edge into Wales, central parts of England and the southeast. So 1 or 2 centimetres is possible, but the main thing is to start Friday morning, there could be an ice risk. So a cold start to Friday morning with a frost and ice in places. This band of cloud and rain will gradually sink its way southwards, but across Scotland, that's still where we hold on to frequent snow showers, especially across parts of the east, and accumulations will start building. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells mixed in with some wintry showers, and likewise across Wales and the southwest. This band of cloud and rain, though, will gradually start sinking its way southwards, but across eastern areas and across northern areas, that's where we're going to see plenty of winter sunshine as we go through Friday. Still holding on to some brisk winds, especially across Scotland and running down that eastern coast, and there'll be a few showers just running into Northern Ireland as well. Some of these could be wintry, but for all of us on Friday, it's going to be feeling cold out there, especially compared to today, with the brisk winds still across the north. So a cold and frosty night to come as we go through Friday night and into Saturday, still with some wintry hazards, especially across coastal areas. And that theme continues as we head into the weekend. Plenty of sunshine inland, but still with the risk of frost, ice and some snow.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar